Learn how to be a helper in your community. Brought to you by Maddie's Fund, the Humane Society of the United States, and the Ad Council.
Some people won't give you the real talk on drugs, but it's time we know the facts. Fentanyl is often laced into illicit drugs and used to make fake versions of prescription pills. You can't see it, taste it, or smell it. Suppliers mix fentanyl into their products because it's potent and cheap, and the dealer might not even know. Keep yourself and others safe by knowing the real deal on fentanyl. Get the facts. Go to realdealonfentanyl.com. This message is brought to you by the Ad Council.
Here's a fun fact for you. The average chameleon can point their eyes in 2 different directions.
No time to waste. Let's go. You are now listening to Jason Anderson, and you are in the zone.
You're in the zone with Jason Anderson on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
Adam, your night with Beards and Brisco, if you won the prize that the three of you just get to hang out and do what?
Wow.
Yeah. So many possibilities. So much.
How about we can't somebody else win this prize? Why do I have to win this prize?
You're in the zone on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
It's that time of year again. We all have to decide. What really matters? The most existential time in the NFL calendar is here. Does anything really matter? Does the rain outside dampen your day? Does Chris Jones not being in St. Joe dampen your week? Yes and yes. Those 2 questions are actually not rhetorical. I feel pretty strongly about my answer to both of those. But beyond that, how dark have things gotten in Kansas City? How dark have things gotten in St. Joseph, Missouri, with the rain of the day and number 95 eclipsing everything else beyond that? They are back outside in St. Joe. They started indoors because of the weather, but still no Chris Jones, and also with just 1 full practice with the full team, with the veterans under our belts, we have a lot that we can talk about from yesterday's action, and as the Chiefs are on the practice field right now in St. Joe, expecting to hear from them in about an hour. We'll talk a little more about all of these inner workings at noon with our friend Matt Verderam from Sports Illustrated, and we're going to have plenty of time to break this all down here on today's edition of The Zone. I'm Joshua Brisco here with you. Jason Anderson will be back with us tomorrow. Dylan Michaels on the other side of the glass, and there are 2, I think, obvious, enormous, at least talking points that come out of yesterday's practice. And one of them is about who wasn't there at all, and the other one is about who left before it really actually started, which isn't the way you want to start your off-season conversation. Now, look, there's worse ways for it to go. You can have severe injuries that begin to put the bad omens over your entire season. That can happen right out of the gate. It's already happened to C.J. Garner-Johnson. It feels like it happens to the Ravens every year, where you get 2 days into training camp and bad things are going on. The Chiefs aren't there. I don't think there's reason to be panicking right now. But when Andy Reid says he's a little surprised, I'm a little surprised. And so I think starting with Chris Jones, with the other name I've inferred already being Kadarius Toney, I think we have to start with Chris Jones today, despite the fact that there was nothing that took the air cut out of my sails of training camp, like seeing that Kadarius Toney had, quote, tweaked his knee, unquote, while shagging some punts before practice yesterday. an enormous part of the Chiefs' offense this year, their offseason plan to this point, their wide receiving core, really just hinges on Kadarius Toney being healthy. Him tweaking his knee yesterday doesn't mean his season is over. That I haven't seen anything to even insinuate that it's terribly serious. But it's just deflating. You just watch someone talk about how their new diet starts on Monday, and then the first thing you saw them eat first thing in the morning was, a hash brown. It's like, hey, that doesn't seem like the right thing to do to keep you on the right track. Yeah, I'm concerned about Kadarius Toney's health because I think he's one of the most fun players in football whenever all those muscles and tendons are all where they're supposed to be. And as I've talked about many times before, I guess I am starting with Kadarius Toney because it's the one that makes me the most sad right now. Health is not a character trait. This happens a lot where injury availability often gets conflated with if this dude really wants to be out there, is actually trying or doing the work in the off season. I don't think we have any evidence, any reason to ask if Kadarius Toney wants to be out there. Seems like he loves it. Dude is dynamic as anything. Just has been... we've seen plenty of reports of, Kadarius Toney something tweak. I hope this is the last time we hear the word tweak around Kadarius Toney throughout all of training camp the whole season. I remain hopeful. But tweaked his knee, shagging punts before the first full team practice of training camp is not how I wanted his preseason really to begin. That much is obvious. Nothing new on that right now. Maybe we'll hear more from the Chiefs as the day goes on. But that was yesterday for Kadarius Toney, and that makes me sad because I have high hopes for him. That's the hurdle, though. Just health and availability. For Chris Jones, the hurdle is a little bit more unknown, I suppose. Because I don't know how high that hurdle is or how willing the Chiefs are to attempt to jump over it. But he doesn't report to training camp, and the phrasing from Adam Schefter includes a phrase that I don't think to this point we had heard any time this offseason. So Schefter tweets, as the rest of the veterans have reported in St. Joe, Adam Schefter tweets, Chiefs All-Pro defensive tackle Chris Jones, who has been seeking a new deal this offseason, did not report with the rest of the team to training camp today, per source. The two sides remain, quote, far apart on a new deal from the Defensive Players of the Year finalist. This is the first time, to my eyes, we have seen the report floated out there that the Chiefs and Chris Jones are, quote, far apart. Now, look, we've been kind of tearing down some of these walls for a little bit in some of our recent discussions about contract negotiations. We're just going to go ahead and start knocking down, if not the fourth wall, I don't know, at least we're going to put some holes in it. Let you see through a few things here, okay? Him not reporting and Schefter tweeting that the two sides are far apart on a new deal is coming from Chris Jones' agent. No one has told me that's from his agent. The agent did not send this to me myself. I'm just telling you, having seen plenty of these tweets before, this is Chris Jones' agency saying, yeah, he's not going to be there because we are so far apart on this new deal. We're being very reasonable. We just want to be paid very, very near Aaron Donald. We're not even saying he has to be paid more than Aaron Donald. Well, but boy, we are just getting disrespected. We are so far apart on this deal. We just can't. It would be unreasonable for Chris Jones to be at camp while we're so far apart on this deal. And if nothing happens over the next couple of days, we're probably going to see a tweet, maybe from Schefter, maybe from somebody else, that says, the Chiefs have been working really, really hard on this Chris Jones deal, but Jones is just asking for so much money. There's an unreasonable expectation here. The Chiefs have drawn a line in the sand, folks, and they said, we're not going to pay him more than the Rams paid Aaron Donald. We can't, we can get you all the way up to the upper 20s in the millions of dollars per year, but we're not going to be able to hit that 28, 29 range. But man, we've been working on it. It's just they're being unreasonable. That's going to come from the team. Whenever that report comes out, it's the team side. Now we are finally having this back and forth in public. And it really hadn't gotten to that point this offseason, which sometimes it does. Sometimes it gets public way before this point, which frankly to me gives me a little bit of comfort in all of this. This back and forth, this bantering, this little tennis match wasn't happening before the draft because the Chiefs weren't that worried about wanting to make sure they could move him for draft picks, because that hasn't been the goal. The goal has been to get Chris Jones extended. If the goal was to move on from Chris Jones to get max value back, that would have happened before the draft, like it did with Tyreek Hill. I think there is a infinitesimal chance the Chiefs are just now starting to take Chris Jones trade calls. We can talk about what might happen if they don't get this deal done this year. But right now, Chris Jones, or his camp, is paying $50,000 per day to not be in St. Joe. Now, I do think there are some people on this team who might willingly pay $50,000 to sleep in their own bed and not in a dorm during this portion of the season. Chris Jones might be among them. But obviously, this is all about getting this new deal done, figuring out where it settles in next. I wanted to get the little snippet here from the phrasing on the Chiefs side as well. That the Chiefs side, I'm putting kind of in air quotes because James Palmer here had the tweet as I wait for the website formerly known as Twitter to load. We'll talk about that at some point today. I just can't do it right now because it'll be the whole show. Opening my ex-favorite website back in the day. James Palmer tweets, "The Chiefs were optimistic something would get done by the start of training camp. We are here and a deal isn't done. My sense is that feeling of optimism wasn't really mutual from both sides as camp approached." So you have Schefter's side saying far apart, Palmer's side saying Chiefs were optimistic, and I think Nate Taylor with the report about the kind of the efforting that had gone to that point. We can play a little best case, worst case. We can play a little most likely case. We can freak out. We can sing Kumbaya. Here's where I more or less think that we're headed. And then I'll tell you what I think happens if I'm wrong. Right now, where I think we're headed, ultimately, I'm just guessing from here, is that Chris Jones will sign a very large contract extension with the Kansas City Chiefs before training camp completely gets away from you. I don't know if it'll be this week, next weekend, early next week. As the aforementioned Nate Taylor of The Athletic had said recently, if August 1 gets here and it's not done, maybe the intensity level ratchets up a little bit. The concern can ratchet up a little bit. But I'm going to give us the rest of July operating from a space of, I think the most likely outcome here is a big extension that happens within the remainder of this month. Because this is a marriage that makes sense for both sides to continue. Now, I know everyone listening right now is thinking, okay, but when did that stop being true for Tyreek Hill? A fair question. Because that was the status quo for me with Hill as well. Until Devontae Adams' new deal, wide receiver market recalibrates, Tyreek Hill reasonably says, I don't want to just be like amongst the highest paid receivers. I want to get the biggest deal I can right now in what will be the largest deal of my NFL career, one that he has since talked about finishing and then retiring from the league with. We'll see. But I want max money right now as the market shifts under my feet. I'm not going to be content to be merely very well paid. And that hasn't happened with the defensive tackle market this year. Now, there have been big deals. Quinnen Williams' deal is a 4-year, $96 million deal with $66 million guaranteed. That was on July 13th. And Javon Hargrave, Dexter Lawrence, Deron Payne, Jeffrey Simmons, they all signed 4-year deals worth upwards of $80 million. Now, you've got it. There's a little bit of funny math that can come as contracts get inflated and guaranteed money and all of that. But just where the market is kind of settled right now. Now, Aaron Donald is on this 3-year, $95 million deal, which is worth almost $32 million per year, all of it practically guaranteed per Spotrack's practical guarantee measurement. Everything we've heard at this point has been that Chris Jones would be content to be the second highest paid interior defensive lineman in football. That would put him above Quinnen Williams on that 4-year 66 guaranteed, but below the 31.5 or so that Aaron Donald is making per year, pretty much all guaranteed. I am not that worried if the Chiefs and Chris Jones are, air quotes here, pretty far apart on the average annual value. If the Chiefs are saying, yeah, we got 26 per year for you, and Jones' side is saying, well, we want 30, well, 28's in the middle, and maybe you figure it out. That's about the cap hit of what he's expected to have this year. But all right, we're trying to, we'll meet somewhere in the middle. I get worried if the gap in the two sides comes from the guaranteed money. Because that's where the gap could be legitimately too wide to bridge. I am not panicking about that on the Chiefs' behalf. I am not completely sure that that's where the rift is. But that's where you could say, hey, if you're Chris Jones this year, I've got a bunch of the salary math here, all right? If you're Chris Jones this year, you're ending this year with a $28 million cap hit. That's $19.5 million in base salary with about $1.75 million in bonuses. And then there's about $7 million in a prorated bonus, which is just a salary cap trick. He's already got that money. But $20-ish million of cash is coming to Chris Jones this year if he just plays out the last year of his deal. Then if he were to get franchise tagged by the Chiefs next offseason, be a huge number here, but the Chiefs could be in a spot to deal with it. They're going to be paying Chris Jones a lot either way. If they tag Chris Jones next offseason, if he were to play out this entire year, Tyrann Mathieu style, essentially. Now, obviously with Mathieu, they just played him out, let him walk. For Jones, it could be play this out, tag him. Well, then next year, his franchise tag would be about $33.5 million per Joel Corey, and that's a 20% raise over what he's making now, which is a different thing than averaging the top 5 at the position. That's usually how the franchise tag goes, unless you have one of those higher salaries. And so this second little mechanism, if your eyes glaze over here, don't worry about it. It's not that important, but it's kind of interesting. The franchise tag is going to make sure you get a raise, essentially. That's where Jones would end up. But so if he ends up with a $33.5 million salary cap hit on the franchise tag next year, he can sign that, and that money is guaranteed to him. So if he played out this year and then didn't have a catastrophic injury or played well enough to still get tagged next year, he could play this year and next year under the tag and end up with $53.5 million coming his way in the next 2 years. And then hit free agency after that. The Chiefs wouldn't tag him a second time. That number would be huge. You hit free agency, then you can go sign another deal, and you've already got an extra $50 million pocketed that you don't currently have here on July 24th. I don't think any of that is terribly likely, but that is a path to keep in mind, because Quinnen Williams' deal, the extension he just signed, gives him $66 million practically guaranteed, $48 million guaranteed at signing. Chris Jones, or Aaron Donald's, I told you, is pretty much all practically guaranteed to the tune of $95 million. And Chris Jones, at age 29, $1 million or $2 million in average annual value, I don't really think is going to move the needle for him in an enormous way. I think he might be willing to stomach being $1 million or $2 per year underpaid if that comes with long-term security where he knows what he's going to be making when he's 31 years old or 32 years old. That's where there's value for Chris Jones to sign this extension at all. Otherwise, hitting free agency is great for leverage. The franchise tag is terrible for leverage. And then what could the Chiefs do if they just say, all right, fine, you want all this money guaranteed. It's not going to happen. You're not going to sit out this year and not get paid and pay fines as you go. So go ahead and play on this season, then we'll figure it out. Part of the deal here also is that it gets lost in this conversation a lot, I think. People seem to kind of forget in July that the Chiefs do actually intend to try to win another Super Bowl again this year. Because you could say, well, but Chris Jones, years down the road, he's going to be in his 30s. Well, yeah, but the Chiefs have Chris Jones right now because he unequivocally gives them a better chance to win a Super Bowl this year by being on this team. So, of course, he's valuable and worth making an effort for now. Because now is the thing you are in the most control of, that you have the most say over, and that you can actually play football games to win this year. So if they play Chris Jones out this year, and if they do the franchise tag as early on in the process as humanly possible, and they spend that moment up until the NFL draft next year looking for trade opportunities, that is the unfun but practically plausible option that I could see down the line that has a couple of issues. One is that is a big salary hold right there on the franchise tag, and then moving Chris Jones and figuring out how to do all of that. You're in Frank Clark territory, right? When the Chiefs were on the receiving end of Frank Clark. But Chris Jones is 29 right now. This time next offseason, he's going to be 30. That's how time works. And I have a little bit of concern that if we end up in this sort of nuclear outcome for the Chiefs, where it's play out this deal, we'll tag you next year, then we'll trade you for what we can get. A 30-year-old, even an elite 30-year-old interior defensive lineman is not going to bring back the haul that Tyreek Hill did last year. It's just not going to happen that way. I don't know what Aaron Donald on the open market would get you right now. Chris Jones being the closest thing to Aaron Donald that we have seen. I don't know what he would get you right now. Maybe you could ask, okay, so what does that say about his salary value then, his extension value? Are the Chiefs right to not want to pay Chris Jones exorbitant amounts of money into his early 30s? Yeah, probably. I mean, to be wary of that is generally good business practice in the NFL. And the Chiefs do very, very little in terms of paying dudes beyond the age of 30, not named Travis Kelce. But now I do think there's a little bit of an argument that Chris Jones has at least the most leverage he's going to have the rest of his career right now. Because he is under contract. But he is a vital part of a team trying to go back-to-back. Fully worth the money he's going to get paid on his current deal right now, being around that $28 million cap hit this year. And we know that he wanted this extension done, and we know the Chiefs wanted to get it done, because if they would have believed they were at an impasse earlier this offseason, I think they would have already moved Chris Jones. I think a lot of people missed the lesson of Tyreek Hill when that trade happened by overly applying that same logic immediately to Chris Jones. Because he isn't Tyreek Hill, because he doesn't have Patrick Mahomes getting him the football. And the Chiefs tried to keep Tyreek Hill. Another part of this that I think has largely been lost to history already. They were working on that deal. Then the price went up and the Chiefs tapped out. Got a huge return, rebuilt several parts of the defense, won a Super Bowl in year one. Worked out pretty well. And I don't think the lesson from Tyreek Hill was the Chiefs are going to just keep seeing their guys rise in value and then move everyone who's not named Kelce or Mahomes. I think that was a little more about the receiving core, the overall health of the roster, and still genuinely trying to do what makes the most sense for the team in the short term and in the long term. Not only do I not think that Chris Jones off this team leaves them with even an average defense for a group that with Chris Jones I like as like a sneaky top 10 unit this year. I really do. But taking Chris Jones off this defense right now submarines that completely. And I don't know what you would be getting in return, even just holding some of that salary back to spend on other things. I don't think you're spending that money or whatever draft capital you're getting in this hypothetical Chris Jones trade. I don't think you're spending that money or salary or draft capital in any way that will raise the overall health of your roster more than losing Chris Jones tanks it. And I think the Chiefs believe that too, or else we know they're not afraid to make a huge hack like that. They did do that with Tyreek Hill. I think they've shown us they don't view Chris Jones as being that same type of player or in that same situation. So I still think this deal ends up getting done. I am more worried about it right now than I was when we talked about it on Friday. And I don't know what exact shape it's going to take. I am fascinated to see what ends up happening as this week plays out. We will hear from Steve Spagnuolo around 11 o'clock today. He's obviously not going to talk much about the mechanisms of the contract negotiations. But I bet he'll say some things about what the defense looks like with and without him. Plus, also, it's just great to have Spags back in our life. I'm really excited to have our first Spag sighting of the 2023 season. Plus, we'll talk to Matt Verderam of Sports Illustrated at noon about all of this going on with the Chiefs, from Chris Jones to Kadarius Toney and everything else. Plus, Andy Reid and Clark Hunt yesterday both did address Chris Jones. I thought both of them had some interesting things to say. Maybe just things that slipped through the cracks that I think is worth hearing. We'll bring you some of that as well. It's The Zone here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Joshua Brisco and Dylan Michaels with you. We'll talk more about Chiefs camp and the official end of the Royals season. I tried, guys. I really did. I really thought, you know what, maybe again. I'm going to give it another effort. And then I stopped. I decided the effort wasn't worth it. Happy Chiefs season, everybody. More football next.
Take the show with you by listening live on 810WHB.com, in the 810 mobile app, or by
Does that mean I'm done?
Weekdays from 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
The horn hasn't blown yet in St. Joe. Joshua Brisco with you here in the zone. Jason will be back tomorrow. Dylan Michaels on the other side of the glass. Just decided intern Reed's going to get put on the Sports Center spotlight at some point today. Gonna see if those radio jitters grab him at any point. Love the love ramping up the anxiety on the interns when we can around here. Big day for the interns today. Got Intern Jeopardy coming up in the program today also. So, whoo! Gonna have a chance to see some interns make or break it.
Time to shine.
Time to shine or time to crash. Time to realize you flew too close to the sun. This will be good. Pressure makes diamonds. Or, I guess, explodes. I'm not sure.
We'll stay positive. Our intern is about to shine on this Sports Center today. Reed is going to kill it.
Yeah, sometimes they call them Reeds. So you got to do a Sports Center read.
Boom.
It's literally, I don't know if it's in your blood, but it's in your name. And that makes you think you got a chance. Zone's brought to you by Google Fiber, by the way. You want to talk about having no doubts whatsoever in your connection. I've got my doubts about Reed. I have no doubts about this Reed because I know that Zone, being brought to you by Google Fiber, is always going to bring you award-winning internet without data caps, annual contracts, or hidden fees. I've been using Google Fiber at my home now for several months, and man, making that switch finally was so very worth it. So appreciate Google Fiber for all they do in Kansas City. I've laid out my sort of thoughts, hopes, wishes, and concerns on Chris Jones. I'm going to go back to Kadarius Toney here real quick. And also, maybe we can stretch out through a little more of the wide receiving group and some of the places where I'm hopeful or concerned. I'm going to have my heart broken by Kadarius Toney. I can feel it. I mean, it's just going to happen. It's going to happen. Probably going to happen to you too. Because it doesn't do you any good as a sports fan. It doesn't do you any good to hold your hope too tightly, right? To crush it under the weight of your own fear. You know your football team has an absolute alien wide receiver who could do some crazy bleep with their absolute alien quarterback. And all this creature from outer space has to do is make sure that Earth's atmosphere isn't too hard on his tendons and muscles. That's where we're at. Like, he is clearly from another planet that has gravity that's like a little stronger than Earth's gravity, so then when he gets his feet set here on human planet Earth, he's just bouncing, Kadarius Toney. It looks like he's breaking physics because he's used to, planting his foot in the ground on, Krypton 2. I couldn't come up with a good fake planet name.
We'll take it.
It's not my best work. But he's coming from Tony Land, and he's used to planting his
Tony
foot.
Island.
Tony Island is really good. He's used to having to work harder with a little extra gravity on Tony Island. So he makes it here to Earth, and the Giants are like, man, this dude looks like an alien. I guess we should take him. I don't know. He's breaking down here under Earth's gravitational pull. Not having enough tension. Maybe that's the thing. That maybe it's made his tendons too loose now. And I'm saying, imagining you're a Chiefs fan listening right now, just sort of, just odds are. If you're a Chiefs fan right now, maybe you, I'll tell you, I was drafting Kadarius Toney in my underdog fantasy drafts that I was doing over the weekend. Maybe it'll pay off, maybe it won't. You can decide if he's worth your fantasy draft pick or not, but he's worth being hopeful for. He's worth being excited about because you being excited does nothing to actually put more pressure on the team. They're going for a run it back campaign here. They're trying to win another Super Bowl. It's okay. You can be hopeful about Kadarius Toney and you're not adding any bad juju to the world. No pun intended. He's in New England now. It's okay to be excited. But much like Kadarius Toney, I'm afraid to get hurt. I am a little bit concerned that these hopes are going to only show up in these pockets, which seems like the way it was playing out last year even too, right? Where you get 2 games of Kadarius Toney looking like an absolute future Hall of Famer, and then a stretch where he's not out there. Maybe you get half a game where you say, oh, bleep, here it comes. Here's the Kadarius Toney game, followed up by him getting hurt in the third quarter. And even if that's who he is, he will be useful. He was that guy last year and was very useful as the Chiefs won a Super Bowl. Did they win a Super Bowl without Kadarius Toney on the roster last year? I don't know. The fact that I don't know is a pretty good sign that he had real value. Even if you say, oh, well, Mahomes figures it out with somebody else. Maybe so. Maybe not. The one part of it that I do wonder about now, though, that I do think matters from a team-building evaluation standpoint is what do the Chiefs expect from Kadarius Toney from a health perspective? Do they expect him to play? Who among us wouldn't take 14 games? 14 games I would take in a heartbeat. Are the Chiefs expecting Toney to play 14 games? Or are they expecting it to be 8? Just what they can get? I don't know. TBD. But if they were expecting Kadarius Toney to be their number 1 receiver, if they still are expecting that, again, it wasn't a season-ending injury, just a knee tweak before the first practice of the season, or at least the first camp practice of training camp. If they're expecting him to be their number 1 wide receiver, they probably should have had a contingency plan they feel really good about. Now, yesterday, who was taking first-team reps with the ones at wide receiver? That would be Justin Ross. You're welcome, Chiefs Twitter. You're welcome. Enjoy. Ride that wave for as long as you can, as fast as you can. I think it matters a little bit. Guys will rotate, but Andy Reid's not going to just put an absolute scrub out there to waste Patrick Mahomes' time. There's a little bit of belief in Justin Ross if he's out there running with the ones on day 1 of full team practice. That's great. Happy to see it. Hope he stays healthy too. Reports that Richie James was looking good. Saw a clip of him catching a pass running in shorts. We'll see. I like the skill set. This is my little secret. I like the skill set of every receiver on this depth chart, more or less. Toney to Ross to James to Sky Moore to Rashee Rice. Yeah, sure. Healthy best case scenario versions of each of those guys is fascinating, like an all-pro caliber type of thing. The best version of Justin Ross is going for 1,200 yards this year. Hell yeah. The best version of Richie James catching passes from Patrick Mahomes, 1,000-yard season. Why wouldn't he? He got 17 games catching passes from the best quarterback to ever fall to this planet. Love that. But what is realistic and what is realistic through the Chiefs' eyes? The messed up thing is it might not really matter because they might have just said, well, hey, look, we were nervous about injuries and experience and depth, but we were not going to pay all that money to Odell Beckham Jr., and we were not going to pay all that money to DeAndre Hopkins. And if that's the case, should they have traded up to get Zay Flowers? It sounds like they tried. If not Zay Flowers, probably someone else in that range. That could have been a tackle they had started going right before then. It could have been Mozzie Smith, especially if they didn't feel great about things were going with Chris Jones. I don't know. That one will look interesting in retrospect too, I imagine. But I don't know if the Chiefs have mishandled anything here. I'm certainly not filled with any rage at this point. But I do have a little bit of concern as injuries and banged up receivers are both the guys setting your ceiling and perhaps your floor. Kadarius Toney and Justin Ross setting your ceiling is a dream because their ceilings as healthy, best versions of themselves wide receivers, it would make the rest of the league blush. But if they're not out there, you are putting a lot on the shoulders of a second-year Sky Moore, of Marquez Valdez-Scantling, who I do think is a really good NFL wide receiver. We just pretty much know what he is to this point or what he has been to this point. You're asking him to show more than that? Or you're asking someone else to step up. For all of the skill sets that are fun about Richie James, he has not been a team's go-to guy. And if Travis Kelce's healthy, None of the receivers have to be the number one pass catching option. But Travis Kelce will continue to age as he navigates linear time. I hate to say that out loud. I'm trying to keep it to a whisper.
Please stop with your facts here and your logic.
Dylan, I don't like my facts or my logic either. And my facts and logic say that Travis Kelce will be catching 1,000 yards and receiving yards until at least his 40th birthday. The messed up thing is that I'm only joking a little bit. I kind of think that Travis Kelce could do all of this until he's like 38 probably.
He's the only person I would bet on.
And he should, by the way. Just for us. Not because he doesn't have a good life lining up for post-football, because it sure seems like he does. I just hope that post-football is way down the line. Maybe after we sort of find the advancements in technology that allow you to merge with cyborg tech to become a never injured NFL player. But eventually someone else is going to have to be a part of that. I like the ensemble the Chiefs have at wide receiver very, very much. I think it needs a leading man, so to speak. And some of the ensemble guys could rise to that level if they're there to take the stage. This is my concern with Kadarius Toney. This is my concern with much of this group. Training camp is long. We will have many days of practice to look to as we see how all that shakes out. We will hear from the Chiefs pretty shortly as well. Expecting to hear from Steve Spagnuolo, Travis Kelce, Trent McDuffie, and Sky Moore. Maybe next, maybe in a few minutes, coming up here on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
You're in the zone on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
Wanye Morris left with, I think it was a hamstring issue yesterday, and Kadarius Toney had a knee tweak before shagging punts before practice yesterday. So we may hear an injury report from St. Joe, and then expecting to hear from defensive coordinator Steve Spagnuolo first, and then some combination, some order of Travis Kelce, Trent McDuffie, and Sky Moore the rest of the way. It'll be interesting to hear from Sky Moore. We got to talk to him a little bit out at the Marquez Valdez-Scantling charity softball game when me and Sterling Holmes are out there doing a show. Sterling's going to be filling in for me/Mick in the 1 o'clock hour, by the way. I'll be here still, but he'll be in my usual chair. And we'll do a little Learn Funny Beth with Stu. We talked to Sky, though, out there at the softball game for a little while, and him like getting up to this next level here in year 2 is obviously a big part of the process for Chiefs rookies, especially wide receivers, getting to know the offense. And we'll take the injury report here if we can get it from St. Joe. It looks like they're on the way. So, all right, well, we'll hop out there. We'll hear the injury report live from the Chiefs, and then we'll circle back around to hear Steve Spagnuolo. But as soon as we hear from the Chiefs, what's the injury update?
Serious with the knee, and Tershawn Wharton. I think Coach may have more for you guys tomorrow, but right now they're just working through some stuff. All right? Thank you. You're welcome, Nate.
All right, so we'll keep an eye out there for presumably Steve Spagnuolo. I didn't hear anything about Wanye, but Tershawn Wharton working back from the ACL, Toney on the knee, working through some things. So that could be a little bit of a process. We'll keep an eye on that as camp unfolds, but expecting Steve Spagnuolo in mere moments, which is good, man. You know his football season has arrived because Steve Spagnuolo press conferences are back.
We do it in a normal week. Is it after 12 or before? In between the... So sometimes I'm good morning and sometimes I'm good afternoon. Great to see everybody. You guys are probably like me. It's great to get to training camp if you love football at all. So we're pretty fired up about being out here. It was good that we were inside initially. I think you guys might have been in there with us, and then nice that the sun come out. The only thing I'm going to get yelled at for is I didn't have a hat on because my wife's going to yell at me for not screening my forehead. But sometimes that happens, right, Sam? What are you going to do? All right, I'll open it up. Yeah, so listen, we're all prideful guys. I mean, we want every defensive player wants their unit to be noted for great defense. So I'm with Nick 100%. I don't get wrapped up too much in the numbers during the year, but at the end of the year, I mean, we're always going to evaluate what we were. And we talked about in the OTAs about where we've been defensively. Now, the one thing that's a little bit different, and I conveyed this to those guys, is you know, conventional NFL stats says number one defense in the NFL is the total yardage team. We don't really go down that road. To us, it's a defensive efficiency. There's 9 categories to defensive efficiency. You guys have probably seen it before. And we want to be number one in the NFL in defensive efficiency. Points allowed, third down, red zone, right? It's all the rankings in those particular categories. So I'm with Nick. I'd like us to climb up there. I'm not going to worry about that week to week. But at the end of the year, I'd like that to be the ultimate goal. There's element. Well, the 9. The point I made was, so I went back to the 4 years we've been here. We were 8th. The first year I was here in defensive efficiency. The other 3 years we were in the middle of the pack. It was 18, 19. I think last year we were 15th. And we looked at it and said, okay, where do we got to get better at to climb? The first one's red zone. The second one is some third down, even though it wasn't terrible. But there are certain areas in there that we need to get better at. We were really good at not giving up big plays. All right, so that helped us there. But so we look at it. But more than anything, it's building the foundation of the system.
Steve, understanding you haven't been in pads yet, but have you learned anything about you out here or OTAs for that?
Yeah, I think he's a passionate football player. He's really into it. Like today, I watched him make a play, and he was fired up for himself. But then I watched him a couple plays later. One of his teammates, a D-line teammate, made a big play, and he was just as fired up for those guys. I like that. That's not a vet that's sitting over there just thinking about himself. You know, he's thinking about his teammates, and I like that part of him. And he's been a really good addition to this point. Hopefully, it shows up in the games. Play a couple of multiple positions, inside and outside. He did that in San Francisco, so we like that kind of flexibility. be stern in the run game. My expectation right now for him, quite frankly, is to learn the system. That's step number one. And then just let his natural ability take over after that.
Where are you mixing and matching a lot of different quarterbacks, different spots?
Corners?
Yeah.
Is it? Yeah.
What's the thought process right now?
Well, we really haven't. Listen, so LJ's coming back off an injury, right? We know Trent is doing the same. So we're kind of, we've got their rep count down right now. And because of that, you're seeing in and out. You know, Rick's got those guys on a rep count, and Dave and Donald are doing a good job doing that. Specifically. But since they're coming out, somebody's got to go in, and that's why you're seeing all the moving pieces. Yeah.
What is Drew Tranquil going to do for you? What is it that you sort of see in his presence?
You know, a lot of what you just said about Charles, he's a guy that's played a bunch of different positions, really intelligent. It's funny. Yeah, I've had a bunch of free agents come to systems in the years I've been here, and sometimes it takes a little while, you know, for guys to get comfortable with their surroundings, with their teammates. Drew, it's like he stepped right in, and he'd been here for 3 years in terms of communicating with his teammates, what he did off of the field, how much of a pro he is. He's had a great influence on not just the linebacker room, but the defense in general.
Yeah, that's in terms of sort of his comfort, but also his obvious grasp of what you're doing.
Yeah, he's been really good that way. Real multiple. He's playing a couple of different positions right now. Before it's all said and done, he'll probably play all 3 linebacker spots. And then we have a couple other packages where he's going to be a little bit different in too.
So many young players on your team last year who made big strides and helped you guys so much. When you see them now, how much more prepared are they at this point this year than last year, and how much better they can be? Yeah,
light years, although I had to remind one of them, I won't say who, that he was going back to his rookie habits, you know, instead of where he eventually got to. But listen, I've been doing this thing a long time. I really enjoy young guys when they do that, and then just see how much they mature. For me, I don't know if you guys, have they been in the locker room and have you guys seen the guys and been around them yet? Or when they come back sometimes after that first year, facially they look different to me. You know, like they come in, they look like young pups. And then all of a sudden, a year later, that's a grown man right there. So a bunch of those guys, I think, are like that.
Just a thought on Echo Boydo. I know
Yeah.
he's a bit of a long shot, but he's got some skills.
Yeah, I tell you what, he did some really good things in the OTAs. He's a competitor. Like, he doesn't back down. We like that. I mean, we're a press team. That's what we ask our guys to do, and I think that's one of the things he does pretty well.
Hey, I want to ask you about Mike Edwards.
Yeah.
I asked him about your system and learning. You know,
Yeah.
it's pretty tough. And he said he learned a lot when he was down with Todd Bowles.
Yeah.
Talk about, you know, where he's at.
Well, it's probably he's in a great place right now. Unfortunately for him, he missed all that foundational reps back in the spring. Right. And he was dealing with the injury, and then I don't think he was able to train quite like he normally would because of the hamstring or groin. I think he pulled a pull, right? But mentally, he's in a much better place now than he was even back then. He's been in the league. He's a pro. I mean, guys have come from other teams in our system in the past, and all the years I've been doing it, and it usually takes a little while. But Mike's come from another multiple system, and I don't think it's going to be a problem. It's just going to be terminology, and, yeah, we might do something a little bit different. But I think he's used to having a volume of defenses. I think he'll be fine. Okay? Right.
We are all the way back. Steve Spagnuolo live from St. Joe right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB Kansas City. The first Spags presser of the 2023 preseason, and some really tremendous things that we'll probably have to wait a little bit before we can break down because Travis Kelce will be up next at the lectern. We will hear from the future Hall of Famer live from St. Joe in mere moments. I just love hearing Spags again. I think we're going to hear a lot of Drew Tranquil's name in this defense as this year goes on. Those are my 2 takeaways. 1, Spags is back. 2, I think we're going to hear a lot of Drew Tranquil. But first, here's Travis Kelce.
I feel like it's like the intricacies of the offense, the little things. He knows how to teach this thing just as well as Coach Reed does. You know, he knows every single bit of what the O-line's mentality, their footwork, the wide receivers, their angles, their, you know, how they're tracking the ball. You know, the little things that Coach Reed really understands has kind of been ingrained in Pat's head. And I think that's all the quarterbacks at that, you know, and they all kind of just, you know, as a collective group, all thinking the exact same, and that's what makes this thing run like an engine, man.
Is it the same way on game day, or are there other things you see on game day that
well, obviously Pat has the instinctual ability to do things that I've never seen anybody else do on the football field. So that's where he separates himself, and he kind of shows his own personality in that regard. But in terms of situational football, understanding of the rules of the game, time management, all those things that Coach Reed is, the guru of, Pat is as well. And that's just, being in the same, meetings, understanding how Coach Reed, does things, and in training camp, just having countless amount of time to be able to just go over all those things.
Travis, we had such an unusual offseason with all the different things you got to do. Is it some comfort coming back to the grind of camp?
I love coming here, man. I love coming here. It gets me ready for the season. I'm a big fan of training camp. I'm a big fan of preseason, being able to, lock in on the fundamentals and getting your mind straight, going through those ups and downs. We got a new playbook compared to last year. It has to keep changing. It has to keep evolving. So getting excited about those opportunities and really giving those new plays an opportunity to develop. That's what I get excited about. And I get excited about being around the guys and building this new team together, man.
Travis, do you feel like camp is important to you at this stage?
Every year, 100%. Even more so when I was younger, man. The reps you get in camp are so priceless, man. Whether it's the threes, the twos, the walkthroughs in the indoor, everything you can do to gain a mental advantage on every single play and get you more comfortable out there on the field to be able to run fast and play fast and be accountable for the guy next to you. All that stuff is just it's such needed, and that's why I love coming out here, man.
So much is made between the chemistry between you and Pat. How much freedom are you given at this part of your career where maybe on a given play you can break off the route and find the soft spot, that type of thing for you?
I'm trying my hardest to just run this thing like Coach Reed dials it up, man. And that's where you want to get creative, but at the right time, at the right moment, that creativity will kind of play itself out. Coach Reed does a great job of putting a lot of work into making these plays make sense for the quarterbacks. So you don't want to get off script too much. And as much as everybody thinks I'm getting off script all the time and just getting wide open, for the majority of the part, I'm just running what's called, and Coach Reed's getting me open in terms of play call and dialing that thing up against the right defense. So, yeah, all that creative stuff is fun, but for the most part, I would say about 99% of the time, I'm doing what Coach Reed wants me to do.
Travis, I know you say you love camp, but was there a moment with so many of the new guys last year during training camp where you sort of could identify that, okay, we're going to be good, this team is going to be...
Man, I'm excited. I'm excited about every young guy that we got here, and there's no, let's wait until this guy develops. These guys are ready right now, and you see him flying out there. Rashid had a bunch of great plays today. Noah Gray had a great day today. Sky Moore had about 3 or 4 touchdowns and some great plays. So in terms of the young talent we have here, it's just guys are ready to play because they're putting their nose to the grind and just getting after it, man. They're just getting after it.
Yeah, I guess can you tell, is it midway through camp where you can sort of identify this team is moving in the right direction? Because obviously it's been you and Coach here every year since so. Is there a moment where you can sort of see the change go in the team's favor?
I saw it in training camp the way everybody attacked the days. We were attacking training camp or we were attacking OTAs like it was training camp. And that mentality, that excitement to get better, that focus to get better, that want to get better, that energy of everybody kind of bouncing ideas off of each other, getting on the same page. That's all you want training camp to be. You want it to be a collective agreement that, we're going to do whatever we can to get this thing right. And the young guys, I don't want to say they follow lead, but they figured that out real quick. And it makes the game exciting because you know that when you go out there and you're on the same page as the guy next to you, it just makes everything that much more flawless, and everybody gets to touch the rock in this offense. I mean, it's always been family first, man. I think the beauty of last year was being able to put my family in everyone's living room and showcase my upbringing, showcase how wonderful my mother and my father were, and how much of a mentor my older brother was for me. And that was awesome. Not everybody gets to have the pride to be able to showcase their family like that. And I'm just appreciative of the opportunities that I get, and it'll always be family first in my mind, though, man.
Last 3, Vahe, Adams, Sue.
Travis,
you're obviously still young and in great shape, but I do wonder if you have to make any concessions or do anything different 10, 11 years in than you might have before.
No, just go. Just go. We got a lot of great tight ends, so the reps are going to be passed around a little bit more this year, I would assume. And that's a good thing, man. We got Noah Gray, Jody Fortson, Blake Bell, even, KB and our guy, and oh my gosh, why am I blanking on Bushy, man? Our snowman, the most pale guy out here. No, it's oh my God, listen, the tight end room is so stacked right now. Getting everybody reps to be able to showcase their talents is kind of where we're at. A lot of the coaches know what I can do and kind of know my skill set, but I still want to get as many reps as I possibly can. So there's no pulling back at all.
And overall, you don't feel any sense of father time at all? I mean, do you feel as energetic as ever?
You know what? Nothing more than last year. Last year I started feeling a little bit in the second and third days, but you just got to harp on recovery and just make sure you're doing the right things in terms of muscle activation and things like that. Everybody's body's different, Everybody says when they get older they wish they were doing this when they were younger, but you just figure it out as you go and you start to keep things rolling and try and be at your peak athleticism all times. I mean, just electric, man. He's just a high-energy guy. When he gets the ball, he's flying around. He's a hard worker. We're going to miss KT's just, his ability to make a play out of nowhere and just, kind of gain that momentum. He was that piece for us in the Super Bowl. He was that piece for us throughout the season last year. And, just getting that thing right. We got all the confidence in the world in our training staff here to get him ready either by season or early on in the season. Got our fingers crossed that we get him back as soon as possible, and it's just, letting him heal up, and we'll take care of the load until he gets back. But KT ain't going anywhere, man. We missed that guy already.
Trav, you've been to a bunch of these camps, man. 3 of them led to Super Bowls. Could you tell the difference from the years that you didn't go to the years that you did go?
Not really. You got to keep this thing building throughout the year. As a guy that's been here nonstop, every single training camp you come in and guns are blazing, everybody's flying around making plays. But I feel like this year the energy's really, really high. A lot of communication, a lot of guys are bouncing things off each other. Even in the meeting rooms, nobody's kind of just sitting back, just kind of waiting to be told what to do. Everyone's on the edge of their seat, wanting to learn, wanting to get better. And that's because we know what we can do. We know we can go and get this thing. There's a lot of confidence and there's a lot of, moxie that comes with it. And it starts in the QB room, I'm not going to lie. And a guy like Blaine Gabbert, Shane Bush, I mean, everybody's been in this thing really just attacking the day and having fun with it, man. And that's all you can ask for, because training camp, as you guys know, can be a little bit of a grind. And it is what it is, man. If you bring that energy every single day, you're going to find ways to get better.
Thanks, guys.
All right, now.
Interesting there from Travis Kelce. I mean, a handful of interesting things, but asked about Kadarius Toney and working without him right now. I think he said something along the lines of have him back by the season or early in the season. We'll keep an eye on that. But Sky Moore now at the podium.
This time than you did last year.
Like 30 times more comfortable. Just knowing, like, having an idea of the whole playbook, going through it 1 year before, and, just understanding the culture that, that the Chiefs have in Kansas City. Can you say it again? I'm sorry. Yeah, I started to notice it's hard to miss that when 15's back there, but I started to notice that, like, during OTAs, realizing, like, yeah, I'm with the real guys every single time, so it's like it makes it that much more important to do my job.
Can you speak to the idea of just, it seems natural you're going to get more targets this year? Are you ready to take that step?
Yeah, for sure. I feel like I prepped myself over the last off season, and I feel like I'm ready for that task.
Is there a mental approach to this that you need to apply?
Absolutely. Just knowing that if they're going to count on me more, I need to be ready. And, there's definitely a mental aspect to that, for sure. really, I can tell you that after camp. Right now I want to carve my role out, see what my role is, and then, be able to set goals based off of my role.
Guys, specifically, elaborate on what makes you more comfortable, and I'm sure it's knowledge of the playbook and things like that, but what is it that allows you to do things differently?
It's just having that 1 year of experience under your belt, is the game didn't change, so it's kind of, I'm going at it one more time. And then I feel like I'm in there and I'm just a pro. I'm not in college anymore. I'm not new to the NFL. So I know how things are going to turn out. I have game experience. So I feel like that experience just makes me more comfortable.
You feel like you just actually see things a little differently, a little different pace?
Yeah, it kind of slowed down a little bit. It's kind of like I'm not worried about what route I run anymore. It's about how I'm going to get open and, like what I'm going to do to the DB versus my job.
Scott, you talked about being a reliable passer. Was a catch out there today where you came way back for the football?
Yeah.
Is that kind of an example of what you tried to be?
Yeah, for sure. Like, even though it might not be the prettiest look, but I'm gonna do my best to get it done for sure.
What do you think of the other receivers so far?
I was just telling Mir earlier today, like, I love Richie. Richie's my favorite receiver right now. So, but I feel like we got a lot of great guys in the room. It's super competitive in the room, but at the same time, like, we got a good bond. So all the guys eat lunch together. We laugh, we joke, but we also work. And we know that it's a competitive room for sure.
What makes Richie your favorite? You kind of smile.
I like how he moves. Like, he does the stuff that I think I'm doing what he's doing, but he kind of does it a little different.
You talk about last year coming to camp as a rookie.
Yeah.
Here with your eyes wide open, right?
Yeah.
Is there any guys that have been leaned on you so far this year? Maybe Rasheed Rice.
Yeah, for sure. Rasheed definitely. It was a point where he's asking me all the questions. I told him. One of the times I told him, I said, I don't know, bro, you got to ask the older guys. And he was like, you one of the older guys. So it just put things in perspective for me, like I got to jump into a different kind of role. Like, I'm not the rookie anymore. So I got to be able to answer those certain questions, which makes me, like, study even harder. Like, if you're able to teach it, Joe always says, or receiver coach, like, Joe always says, if you're able to teach it, that means you know that much more. So, for sure.
Are you older than Rasheed?
No, he's older than me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What have your conversations been with Coach Tobe as far as going back to punt return duty being something you do this year? Do you want to return punts this year?
I'm not gonna stop. I really haven't had a deep conversation with him about that, but he definitely has me back there going and catching them every practice. So I'll still be back there for sure. Like, at least to practice them.
Not hurt your confidence, but it also gave you some confidence at the
Yeah.
end of the year when you had the big return.
Yeah.
Is that something that you think about at this point, like how you actually did build from that last year and helped you in the end?
Yeah, it definitely like sparked my confidence, like, leading into this coming season. So yeah, for sure, that's something I always don't want to neglect and have in my back pocket for sure. So thank you. Yep.
There's Sky Moore live from St. Joe. He should keep, fielding punts in practice and stuff. That's fine. But I am honestly still just kind of reeling from the way that Travis Kelce talked about Kadarius Toney. We'll keep digesting that as we go. But Trent McDuffie now at the podium.
Helps your eyes, and how do you feel physically right now as far as football shooting?
Yeah, right now I'm feeling good. I'm excited to finally be back out there with the guys. Watching them during OTAs, it was tough because I couldn't be out there, but just watching this defense move around and get after it, and the rookies coming in, and just how everything gelled together, it was exciting to watch from the sideline, and it definitely made coming into this camp a lot more exciting.
What's been the issue, and how are you feeling now?
Yeah, I had a little issue with my calf. But right now, working with the team and just this offseason, just getting it right, I'm feeling good. Yeah.
Where can this defense get better this year?
Yeah, I think a big thing for us is just takeaways. We know we got guys who make plays, we can cover, we can play the zone, we can blitz the quarterback, but a big thing for us is just getting that ball back. And I know Spags talked a lot about attitude defense and 11 guys at the ball 24/7. I think that's something that this defense is really going to hone in on, is just making sure we don't give up on any play.
Is that for you too, takeaways?
100%, yeah. I dropped a few last year, so I definitely have to come back and make up for it this year.
What have you seen early on here from Nick Jones? Rookie.
Oh, Nick Jones? Oh, man. Shoot, as a rookie, I remember last year for me, it's tough coming in here and trying to learn this defense. And a lot of things are getting thrown at you, especially him being in the nickel position, being at corner. And honestly, he just took everything on the chin. He's listened to all the coaching points, listened to us vets, and he's out there just working. And that's really all you can ask a rookie during this time is just put your head down, keep learning, and keep going out there confident. That's what he's been doing.
You mentioned, us vets. You guys are in your second year. You performed really well in your first
Yeah.
year. What's the limit? As far as what you guys can accomplish in this season?
Man, we still growing. I mean, it's like you said, it's year 2 for us. I mean, we still babies in the league, so the sky's the limit for us. I think a big thing for us is just sticking together as always and continue to just push each other. I mean, not really getting satisfied with what we did last year. Last year was great, but turning that page and being like, okay, this is a new year. We have something else to prove, and I think we're ready for that.
Trent, you talk about Trent.
I know Spags likes me in there a lot, and I know last year towards the end of the season I was in there a lot, and like I always told him, I said, wherever you need me, corner, nickel, I mean, you want to throw me at safety, like, I just want to be out there and be able to play for you, play for this team, and be a good teammate. So wherever he wants me, I'm going to be ready for it.
Trent, you talk about team
Yeah.
goals. I'm sure coming this season, you got some personal goals for yourself. What are those?
Honestly, it's funny. I'm not somebody who really cares about personal goals. I'm not someone who writes, I got to get this amount of picks, this amount of stats. For me, a big thing is obviously Super Bowl. That's always my number one goal, making it back there. But just being the best teammate I can on and off the field. I think for me, being able to do that allows me to wake up every day with a goal. And that's just being out there and having the leaders trust me, having the rookies trust me, and making sure that once this football's done and we're off and, we're living our own lives, that they can call me whenever they need me. And that's something I stand by.
One of the things that Coach Spags said was, just looking in the eyes of you second-year players, how you seem different. You rookies last year, like, oh, look, they've grown in now.
Yeah.
Do you feel different as a group or in yourself individually?
Yeah. One thing I think we're definitely out there talking a lot more. Last year as rookies, it was what are my plays, what are my plays. This year, a lot more communication. I think guys are a lot more confident out there in the plays, and I feel like looking at it now, especially us rookies and even some of the vets, just having a gear being developed in this system allows us to play so much faster. And I think you can start seeing guys like Nightjohn today making a couple breakups, just not thinking, out there just reacting, playing, and just going to get the ball.
What's your first impression of the receivers?
Yeah, man, that's a good group of guys. They work. I know Pat really likes them, and their chemistry just keeps getting better each day. I mean, I feel like the past 2 days, Pat's thrown 2 perfect balls, and I'm like, dang, man, like, I'm there. Like, one of these days I'm going to get you, but, man, no matter what happens, these receivers keep putting their head down and keep working, and that's something that you got to respect.
Last one. One more. Your thoughts about Generic Prince? He made a couple plays out there today. He's someone who wasn't drafted.
Yeah.
Has he jumped out on tape or on the practice field to you?
Yeah, man. I mean, all our running backs right now, they're fast, they're agile, they're hard workers, they're strong, and especially a guy like Generic Prince, so he got that chip on his shoulder. And that's something like you saw Pop last year, came in this kind of just like, they didn't give me a shot, but I'm going to go make one for myself. And for me, looking at it, I love that kind of thing because it's like you got somebody over there who's really trying to grind each day, and that's only going to make everybody else better.
All right, thank you, guys.
Cool. Appreciate it. Yep.
There's Trent McDuffie, and if you want to put an ear to the ground there real quick, Dylan, make sure I believe that is the full class report today from St. Joe. Heard from Steve Spagnuolo, midseason form from Spags, Travis Kelce, who delivered, I believe, the most substantial injury report of the day, and then Sky Moore and Trent McDuffie, as both of them enter what will be huge second years for them. I think we're going to see something bordering a Pro Bowl campaign for Trent McDuffie, and a vital next step to be taken by Sky Moore, who feels comfortable with where he's at right now. That was something that we talked to him about. Again, I mentioned that the show we did from the MVS charity softball game, whenever that was, a month or so ago now. When we talked to him out there for a while, that was the main question that Sterling and I each wanted to ask of him, which is, hey, where are you now in the grand journey of getting to the NFL level, into an Andy Reid offense at that? where were you last year? Small school to an Andy Reid offense is a heck of a jump to make in 1 year. So I think expecting a big leap here in year 2 for Sky Moore is a very fair bet, but it's a lot on his shoulders, especially if, as it sounded like Travis Kelce was laying it out to be, if the Chiefs are going to be without Kadarius Toney for a period of time. We will talk more about that, more about Toney, more about what Kelce said exactly. We'll try to bring you that audio clip as well. I want to get the quote exactly right and make sure that everyone can feel the same sense of dread that now I feel having heard that from 87. Joshua Brisco with you here in the zone. Jason will be back tomorrow, and he can try to recruit all of you to his Richie James bandwagon. At this point, as long as somebody has a bandwagon with horses with good knees pulling the cart, I'll jump on.
Want to see more of The Zone? Watch the show live on the Sports Radio 810 WHB.
journalism world. It's jackasses like you that cause problems, okay? They shouldn't even let you call in. Do you want to talk football? We'll talk football. If you want to be out there and talk idiotic social media, then you need to go do something with a college kid.
Okay, thank you.
You bet.
On Sports Radio 810.
All right, here's the exact quote from Travis Kelce. In fact, I think I'm going to just give you the exact audio the old school way by hitting a button on my computer and playing it out of the speaker because I've got it all queued up over here. We are working in 4D chess today because, to be honest, I did not expect the biggest injury update of training camp to this point, and maybe the biggest injury update of training camp all year, to come from Travis Kelce on day 2 of full team training camp. Obviously, Chris Jones, part of the story as well, as he is still not in St. Joe. We'll talk more about him in a little bit. But here's what I really think is the really noteworthy part of what Travis Kelce had to say today.
You know, just getting that thing right. We got all the confidence in the world in our training staff here to get him ready either by season or early on in the season. Got our fingers crossed that we get him back as soon as possible, and it's just, you know, letting him heal up, and we'll take care of the load until he gets back. But KT ain't going anywhere, man. We missed that guy already.
Well, that's not ideal. That's not what you want to hear on the second day of training camp. Let's just scroll Twitter or whatever this website's called real quick.
X.
You know what I'd like to hit? I'd like to hit the X button on Kadarius Toney's brand new injury. Let's read all these X's. Sterling Holmes will join us at 1. Not ideal. Please don't be Sammy Watkins 2.0. Kent Swanson, KC Sports Network, the a frequent friend of this show.
What his X say?
His ex said, yikes, it took 5 minutes for one of the biggest concerns with the wide receiver room to manifest. Also, Kent, with at least a little bit of a look ahead, which I respect, he X's. Last year, the rookie defensive class got thrown to the fire, and it paid off with high-level production late in the season. We might see something similar with Sky Moore and Rashee Rice this year. The aforementioned and true ruler of this time slot, Jason Anderson, fully recruiting people to the Richie James bandwagon, as previously mentioned.
So his ex is recruiting people to the Richie James situation currently?
Jason is really committed to using his exes to bring people to Richie James. That's exactly right.
I respect it.
Me too.
It's a bold move, bold plan, but probably will work.
Takes bold people to pull off bold visions. Here's the multifaceted reason that I'm not going to say lost for words, because that's pretty much never actually true because of who I am as a person. Here's why I am currently looking for the right words. Not just some words, the right words. I think Kadarius Toney is the closest thing to Tyreek Hill the Chiefs have seen outside of Tyreek Hill. And I think that Kadarius Toney might be the closest thing to Tyreek Hill that the NFL has seen outside of Tyreek Hill. That one, we could have a real argument on that. I'm not planting my flag in that one as a defining take, but I think there's a chance that would be true. If. Let me just see if I can get a flatbed truck to help me move this giant, enormous if all the way over here. This huge, massive if that carries so much weight. If Kadarius Toney was on the field as much as Tyreek Hill was. Huge if. An if big enough to need Jackson County taxpayers to pay for it. That level of if. Because If and I'm not, let's go knock on wood, some salt over my shoulder, cross my fingers, adjust my batting gloves. If Kadarius Toney never played for the Chiefs again, a thing I don't think is going to happen. One more time. If Kadarius Toney never played for the Chiefs again, I think that the acquisition, not just for what he did last year, for what he did in the playoffs, I think that third-round pick that then turns into Darren Waller, hilariously, was already worth it. The identifying of the skill set and saying, hey, this dude is so explosive that we will take the injury risk. Everyone knew what the terms of Kadarius Toney were when the Chiefs traded for him. Wow, what a talent when he's on the field. And that is a moving number. And mostly this has been about Kadarius Toney's hamstrings, right? Like a knee tweak is kind of a different thing, and it might be unfair for this to be another part of his, kind of injury-prone reputation. This might have just been bad luck that could have happened to anybody with their foot planting the way that it did. I really don't know. Again, I've said this before, and this is partially just because of how it ended up. It always ends up kind of manifesting this way. When you have guys who are injured frequently, we start to talk about their injury history as a character flaw, and that makes me uncomfortable because, like, bodies break down in violent sports. Sometimes this stuff happens. Bad luck not making you a bad person because you didn't, do enough knee flexing training sessions over the course of the offseason. Now, look, should everybody be on this Patrick Mahomes, my ankles can bend whatever direction plans? Yeah, I think that would be great. If we could all figure out how to make that happen, that would be ideal. And I really hoped that Kadarius Toney would show up at training camp and just bounce around the field for a month and then be an absolute menace when the season arrived. That would have been great. But he didn't even get into the actual practice yesterday. I mean, that's the reports are that it was a knee tweak suffered shagging punts before practice. And I am now left with enormous questions for the Chiefs wide receivers without really having rage for it looking the way that it does right now. Because short of trading up for one of the first-round receivers who the Chiefs seemed to be interested in, and as we've talked about many times over, they were looking to move up in that range with all of those receivers. Or if it was going to be Zay Flowers or Jordan Addison or whoever it could have been, whoever their target actually was, Quentin Johnston, whoever their target actually was, they checked the price to move up, and maybe they were actually looking at tackles, and maybe they were actually looking at Mozzie Smith, but maybe they're looking at receivers. And frankly, I believe they were at least looking at all of those options because, you need to have your ducks in a row entering a draft so you have your options open and know what things will cost. Well, they eventually saw what the cost would have been to add a first-round wide receiver, and they said, we will not pay that cost. We will wait, and we will grab one later on, turned into Rashee Rice. Last year, similar layout. Say, hey, we could take George Pickens right here. We're actually going to add a pick, move back, and we'll take Sky Moore. They were very much in the mix on Odell Beckham and DeAndre Hopkins. They eventually got to what the final cost was going to be, and they said, well, that's not a price we're willing to pay. I don't think any of those decisions were necessarily missteps. I don't think trading Tyreek Hill was a misstep. I think the Chiefs have had good processes to get to this point, and I am still concerned with the result. That is the very narrow bullseye that this offseason has hit for me, where I've had questions about the results, but largely believed in the process that got them there. And so maybe that does mean they should have paid a premium for one of those veterans. Maybe it means they should have paid a premium to move up for one of the rookies, although frankly, a first-round rookie, I don't think that maybe Jackson Smith and Jigba, just because of the reputation of him being like an NFL-ready receiver now, Maybe with JSN as the outlier, I don't think a first-round receiver is any closer to the field than Rashee Rice right now, who seems relatively close to the field. Like in terms of getting into playing time, not just physically touching grass. But I don't think that really moves the needle. Hopkins or OBJ probably does. But you need to make sure you've got money to like spend on offensive linemen to keep Patrick Mahomes as upright as possible. So I don't think this is like some massive misplay by Brett Veach in the front office. But also, do you feel awesome about a week one starting lineup of Sky Moore, Marquez Valdez-Scantling, and Richie James, or Rashee Rice, or Justin Watson? Or Justin Ross? But you see how thin that gets, right? How fast? Because the swapping in the Tyreek Hill game was elite number one receiver for an ensemble that raises the level of the rest of the group. Like, that's kind of a simplified version of it, which I still think was a good move, and I appreciate it being MVS and Sky Moore and Rashee Rice, Richie James, Justin Ross, rather than it being Demarcus Robinson, Byron Pringle, Marcus Kemp. Like, this is better. And I think Sky Moore is going to have a nice season, especially if Kadarius Toney isn't going to be out there very much. I think MVS is going to have a very similar season to what he had last year. Just be my projection. But I have no idea what's reasonable to expect of Rashee Rice in a rookie season in an Andy Reid offense. Not a clue. So my expectations stay relatively low. That is a degree of difficult to gamble. Justin Ross, I love that he's running with the ones. The physical tools are all there. I tell you what, if Justin Ross plays 17 games and Kadarius Toney only plays 5, as opposed to the inverse that I would have preferred, I suppose, hey man, maybe that's the one. Like maybe they do have an injury-prone number one receiver who keeps it all healthy this year and takes the league by a storm. And maybe, much to the beautiful crystal ball that Chiefs Twitter had this time in 2022, maybe it's Justin Ross. I would be absolutely tickled by that. I would love it beyond words. But right now, I have questions. Because the best thing I think the Chiefs could have bought this offseason would have been a magic potion that they could have given to Kadarius Toney to turn off injuries for him. That would have been the best investment Clark Hunt could have made. A hamstring and knee strengthening training regimen reserved only for members of the Kansas City Chiefs. And if Toney does miss significant time, the shape of this receiving group changes in a way that makes me uncomfortable. I think this group can be good. I think it's going to be hard for it to be great without Kadarius Toney, even with Patrick Mahomes helping to make it good. And if it's Toney and someone else who either has an injury problem or just doesn't quite meet their expectations, if Sky Moore doesn't take a big jump this year, now this receiving group is in trouble. Because MVS is your number 1. And Rashee Rice is your number 2. And Richie James is your number 3. Patrick Mahomes is your quarterback, and Travis Kelce is the salve that soothes all. His health is paramount, obviously. His immortality is paramount. But I'm starting to ask some of the questions that I've just been able to repress to this point. You know, sometimes, I don't know if everyone's seen Barbie or not yet, but I have. We completed the Barbenheimer over multiple days, and they're both spectacular. I'll talk about them probably in
No spoilers.
LFB. No spoilers. But, can I say something that's in the trailer?
Yes.
At one point, Barbie asks the question in the middle of a Barbie Dreamhouse party. Did anyone else ever think about death? What? Sets out sort of the inciting action. Right now, I feel like we have spent the entire offseason like, we're just going to enjoy our dream house. We're going to talk about the Super Bowl, look at all these Lombardi trophies, the drafts in Kansas City. Travis Kelce's on SNL. Oh, this is so fun. The first day of training camp. Hey, guys. You ever think about Kadarius Toney's knee, like, just exploding? What? I'm sorry, I've been having a lot of fun this offseason also, but like, what if the Chiefs' number one wide receiver just like doesn't play very much this year? What would happen then, do you think? I don't know, Malibu! Woo! We've been kind of in Malibu mode, and now I'm worried. Because life does not seem fantastic, and I'm afraid that Kadarius Toney's tendons are made of plastic. We'll take a break here in the zone. I'm going to try to soothe some thoughts and see if I can't get my mentality back into Dreamhouse mode so we can talk about some things we heard from Steve Spagnuolo. Plus, we'll talk to Matt Verderam of Sports Illustrated coming up at noon. More Zone next.
Take the show with you by listening live on 810 WA.
Yoy soy fiesta. I get to go take my shirt off, rub my nipples, and my tequila shots like that's all he cares about.
Weekdays from 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
Probably should have mentioned this earlier also. Kadarius Toney tweeted like moments after today's show began, 10:06 a.m. He quote tweeted a video that is a clip of Julie Freimeyer, the Chiefs, I can't remember what her exact title is, but one of the Chiefs, members of the Chiefs training staff, and the clip is from Quarterback on Netflix, where she's prominently featured as, working on Patrick Mahomes' ankle in those weeks leading up to the Super Bowl throughout the playoffs. And then they win the Super Bowl, and there's that shot of her off to the side with one of the other members of the training staff where she's getting teared up, and they have a hug, and the shot of her just like overcome with emotion because she knows what's gone into the work that she did on Mahomes, what's gone into the work Mahomes went through, all leading up to the Super Bowl. The Chiefs win, and I'm like 99.9 repeating % sure that she will have a Super Bowl ring that looks just like the one Patrick Mahomes has, because the Chiefs always have taken care of their whole staff, getting everybody with the rings. That video is out there, and Kadarius Toney quote tweeted that this morning with just, "Trust her with my life." Which it seems like he should, because she seems incredibly good at her job. The problem is that she might have to put up a Wilt Chamberlain season this year. That's where I end up, is like she might end up being the NFL MVP. Because Patrick Mahomes is out here just trying to break ankles and still win Super Bowls anyway, just to get up the degree of difficulty. And Kadarius Toney, man, I love to watch him play football. I think he is electric beyond electric. But it's going to take some training staff reps and an MVP season for Julie. I'm hoping that it happens. We'll talk to Matt Verderam next.
We still got plenty of good summer weather left, Kansas City. If you're even thinking about getting a new vehicle for a summer road trip, now is the time to check out Roberts Robinson Chevrolet Buick GMC. It's not too late to take advantage of their best interest rates between 0.9 and 1.9% for qualified buyers. They're also helping out with no payments for 90 days on most Chevy SUVs. Keep your family safe on the road with their award-winning service department. Your vehicle is taking you to important places, so don't mess around when it comes to making your vehicle run like a champ. As always, don't forget about the lifetime warranty on new vehicles. I wouldn't even think about buying a vehicle without one, and they're offering it for free. Go to robertsrobinson.com to see over 100 vehicles online, or check us out on Facebook. Take it easy, roller coaster tycoon.
Weekdays from 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
Bit of a heck of a day already here. Chiefs training camp in St. Joe. We've got 2 full veteran squad practices under our belts and didn't even take any official parts of the first practice to lose Kadarius Toney for an undetermined period of time. Today, we heard from Steve Spagnuolo, who had a lot of interesting things to say. Travis Kelce may have broken even more Kadarius Toney news, and then also the rest of the team continues to operate without Chris Jones in St. Joe. We'll talk about all that right now with our guy, Matt Verderam. You can read his work on SI.com, part of Sports Illustrated, SI.com. You can check out the MMQB every once in a while. You're all over the place over there at SI, Verderam. I really appreciate that. But there's one thing I wanted to talk about first before we get to all the, real serious training camp stuff. I know you're with me on this one. I saw those Colts uniforms that they released a few days back, and I just thought, man, those are sweet, and the Chiefs need to hop on this alternate uniform train pretty soon, and I'm sure you're with me.
Whoever created those Colts uniforms should be given life without parole. Hey, those are so embarrassing. If I was a player, I'd be, I'm sorry. You can't. I mean, all monochrome blue, like bright blue with a black helmet. You're the Colts. You're not some expansion team. You're the Colts. You're Johnny Unitas and Peyton Manning. Just stop with this crap that these teams wear. Put on a real uniform and go out there and win a game.
Maybe that could be the things. I think a few years back, the NBA did it to where there was a whole other alternate that was available for teams who'd made the playoffs. They called them the earned uniforms. Maybe they can at least start there. So like, hey, Jets and Colts and all of these loser teams that haven't won anything in forever, make the playoffs, and then you can start to putz around with the color palette.
Well, the NBA, I mean, there's just no shame.
No.
The NBA is to a point now that every franchise has about 75 different uniforms, and you can go out and get a uniform. Like I'm a Knicks fan. I cannot stand when the Knicks wear their city uniforms. I mean, they're not even ugly. I just can't stand the fact that, like, they're the New York Knicks. Like, what are you doing? And then they wear them occasionally during the playoffs, and it's like this circular thing on the front of the jersey. It says, like, City never sleeps. Yeah, that's nice. Put on your uniforms and lose like you normally do. Like, at least if you lose looking good, I can live with it. It drives me. I'm a traditionalist with that stuff. And I love that we're getting the throwback uniforms, but some of these things, I mean, my God, who put that together? And it was like, that looks awesome. Let's do that. But it doesn't matter because no one's going to see the Colts outside of Indianapolis this entire season anyway.
But the throwbacks, though, have been almost unanimously sweet. Like, I am excited to see the Creamsicles back, the Oilers back. How do you feel about we are having this discussion pre-show. I have not actually litigated it yet. How do you feel about the Titans wearing the Oilers throwbacks and some Texans fans being mad about it? How do you land on the logic of this?
Well, so I understand it, and I do empathize. But at the same point, they own the history of the team.
Yep.
And so they're the only ones who can wear it. And I love those uniforms, so I'm all for seeing those uniforms. I do understand the argument. On the flip side of that, I was old enough to remember when the Oilers moved. And let me tell you, they moved because about 8,000 people were showing up at the Astrodome for games. Okay, so this idea that somehow Houston was, like, incredibly wrong, no, they were not. Also, and I know it's a little bit of semantics, they actually were the Oilers in Tennessee for a year.
Oh, yeah,
so,
sure.
I mean, again, it's a little bit of like tomato, but they did wear them in Tennessee for a season.
I am sympathetic to the 8,000 Houston Oilers fans who now see the Oilers playing in Tennessee, essentially. I'm with you on that. But it's the team. It would be very strange if the Cowboys went with Dallas Texans uniforms at some point. I would not know how to deal with that.
Yeah, but again, like the Chiefs have worn Dallas Texans uniforms. Right. So, I mean, I don't know.
I think those should belong to the Chiefs, but I don't really want the Chiefs to wear them anyway, but I definitely don't want the Cowboys to wear them either. So those can just stay in mothballs.
Yeah, and I've seen that's the one weird argument. I've seen people are like, people just like these throwback uniforms because of nostalgia. And it's like, okay, look, yeah, there's definitely some nostalgia with some of these uniforms, but there are plenty of uniforms nobody's asking anybody to put back on.
Yes, that's
like,
true.
just go out, just go. And look, all these things are done for money anyway. All these new uniforms, the alternate uniforms. If I were the Buccaneers, I would just go back to the creamsicles.
Yeah.
Like, do you know how much money you're going to make selling those uniforms? Like, if you're the Broncos and you go back to like the 1980s look, how many uniforms you're going to sell? How many mini helmets you're going to sell at the team store? How many full-size helmets you're going to sell? Like, to me, yeah, I'm all for the throwbacks. I am looking forward to the Eagles unveiling their Kelly Green ones here in the coming days.
Oh, I can't wait for those. The Broncos are the most inexcusable ones. Their current uniforms look dated. The smoke out of the nose of the Bronco coming out of the D. That is an all-timer, and they need to embrace that. So at least we've got that litigated. So now maybe you can tell me what to think about Chris Jones, Matt, because I was, and I guess Andy Reid was, a little bit surprised to not have Jones reporting to camp. It's not really how he's done things in the past. We get the report from Schefter that the two sides are far apart. We know that's coming from the agent side. Help us sort through a little bit. What's fact? What's fiction? What's noise right now on Chris Jones?
So, from my reporting, it has been dead silent from the Chiefs side of things. Now, our friend Nate Taylor got a little bit of a nugget out that the problem is that Jones wants $30 million a year. If he wants $30 million a year, I don't think he's ever getting another contract in Kansas City. I just think they're going to give it to him. I mean, now, with that said, it depends on how the thing is structured. I mean, if they do it where it's like $28 million a year in the first 3 years, then they just give him some big payment at the end he's never going to see to make it technically $30 million a year, that's one thing. Like, okay, fine. If it's actually legitimately like Chris Jones wants, whatever, 4 and 120 and 90 some odd million guaranteed, I don't think the Chiefs going to do that. Like, I think that becomes a real world where I think the Chiefs would say either, well, we're going to play out this year and then go from there, or you can start talking to our teams and see who's going to give you that deal, because that's the other part of this. You know, everybody keeps equating this into Tyreek Hill, and it's not equivalent to Tyreek Hill. Tyreek Hill's situation happened in March when everybody in the league had the most amount of cap space that they're going to have. Tyreek Hill is also a year younger than Chris Jones. If you're going to trade for, if it got to the point where Jones wanted out, the Chiefs just weren't going to do the deal, Jones would have to then go to a team that would have to give up a boatload of compensation just to get him. And then that team would have to give him apparently $30+ million a year. Like, who's doing that? I'm not saying nobody would do that. But you're talking about a very small group of teams, because the Chiefs aren't trading him in the division. They're not going to trade him to an AFC contender. There are other teams like the Giants and the Commanders who just flat don't need him because they already paid their defensive tackles huge money. The Rams are another example. Teams that are awful are not going to trade for him, because why would you do that? It's a waste of time. By the time they're good, he'll be older. So, like, there's a very small – like, the Bears make sense. Right? I mean, Ryan Poles knows them. They have a ton of draft picks. But, again, if you're the Bears, like, would you rather just keep all your draft picks? You're trying to rebuild. I still think that the most likely scenario is they figure it out. But if he truly wants a legitimate $30 million a year, that could be a very sticky situation.
How should we navigate? How should, like, the people listening right now, not even the Chiefs and the Katz brothers, how should Chiefs fans right now navigate the next week in terms of the information that will or won't come out? If it's not a deal in the next week, but we do hear, the report that, well, Jones is being unreasonable, that eventually I'm sure we'll hear if the deal doesn't get done, or, well, they're just so far apart, or negotiating in good faith, permission for other teams. What should people be listening for, and what should we be tuning out?
Well, I think all this stuff you got to take with a grain of salt. I mean, as you pointed out, like what Schefter tweeted, I mean, that's absolutely coming from the agents. So they're doing that to put public pressure on the Chiefs and on Veach, and they're trying to get the point across that, like, the Chiefs aren't giving them a good enough deal. Then Nate's reporting comes out, and let's be real, that's coming from the team. Okay, so that is now the team's like, hey, look, we're trying here, but he wants $30 million a year. The question now becomes, if this thing goes another couple of days, and Jones every day doesn't show up, he's got to pay a $50,000 fine that is not refundable. It used to be the team could just forgive it. Now they can't. if this goes in a couple of days, if you're a Chiefs fan, the one thing you don't want to hear is that they're talking about the teams.
Yeah.
Because that is usually when a trade happens. And I can't remember the last time that you start talking about teams and all of a sudden everything worked out. Now, you could say Lamar Jackson, but that was different. He was on a tag. He was under the contract. I think – look, I still think, though, if you're Jones, unless the Chiefs are just so far off, which really is hard to imagine considering how the D tackles have signed this offseason, like you know what the market is. So unless the Chiefs are so far off, does it make sense for you, if you're Chris Jones, to sit there and rack up a ton of fines? I mean, maybe at some point, do you hold in? Do you show up and just say, I'm not going to play, but I'm not going to get fined anymore, and you put more pressure on the Chiefs? Maybe. But I think, look, you're going to hear stuff in the coming days if this doesn't get done, because that's just the nature of it.
I have my concern on also if you are advising Chris Jones, and if it's his agents or just someone who, hey Chris, here's what I'm thinking. What happens if this drags and the Chiefs say, hey, look, we thought we were close many points throughout this offseason, right? We thought we were moving in the right direction, so we weren't seriously trying to shop you. This is just where we ended up. But now we're here, and let's say it's August 1st. We don't have a deal. You're not playing, but you can talk to whoever you want. We're not getting value for you. What happens if it gets to that point where it's, hey, play this deal out, we'll tag you next offseason, and then we'll take those calls. The next year, that tag is going to be around the $33 million range. They could try to move him then. Maybe at least before the draft, you know what you're able to get back. What does that logical path look like to you, and how likely is that? Or does he need a long-term deal before he's going to see the field this year?
I mean, it's possible. I always say this about every player. This isn't specific to Chris Jones. I do not believe for 1 second he'll miss a game check.
Yeah.
I just don't. I mean, I know Le'Veon Bell did it, and people always use that as an example. I would have somebody else use another example and see how long it takes you.
Yeah.
And I think Le'Veon Bell would tell you that was probably a mistake. He shouldn't have done it. Most guys just do not do so. I don't think he's going to miss any game checks. I don't think the Chiefs think he's going to miss a game check. I do think if you're the Chiefs at some point here, you got to just call up his representation and say, look, this is our best offer. We're not doing this anymore. This is the best offer. You got 24 hours. Figure it out. Take it or leave it. And then if you take it, great. We'll hold a press conference and we'll all sing Kumbaya. If you don't take it, then one of two things is happening. Either we are going to trade you if we can find the right deal, or we are going to play this year out. We will then have a decision to make at the end of the year. Do you tag him? Do you let him walk? I can't imagine you let him walk out the door for nothing. But if you're the Chiefs, a $30+ million tag is a hell of a tag to pay.
Right.
So, but I will say this. Chris Jones has the leverage here. I mean, if you're Chris Jones, you're sitting there going, you need me. Because who are you putting at D tackle this year if I'm not there? Who's it going to be? And if I play out this year, then what are you going to do? You're going to lose me for nothing? You're going to allow that to happen? You're going to tag me? Everybody's going to know at that point that it's gone sour. So he has leverage. The only thing that is holding me back from saying that the Chiefs will eventually cave here is one thing that is true with Tyreek Hill's situation, that is true with this, is Brett Veach has shown he has a number.
Yeah.
And if you don't meet that number, there are potential actions he'll take that shock people. Nobody in a million years thought they were going to trade Tyreek Hill last year.
Yep. They
did, and then they won the Super Bowl. I don't think these situations are equivalent. One guy played on the side of the ball with Patrick Mahomes, the other one doesn't. This is in July. That was in March. I think these are totally different scenarios, but the one common tie here is Hill got to a point where Veach just said, I'm not paying that. That is not going to happen. If Jones really, truly is sitting at $30 million a year, maybe the Chiefs come up to it, but there's a real world where they don't.
Jones is a better player and a more important player than this guy I'm about to invoke the name of, but I do think we were expecting, or at least thought there was a real chance there'd be a long-term deal around this time of year for Tyrann Mathieu before then they had him play out that last year and then walk. Now, again, Tyrann Mathieu is not getting in trade what Chris Jones would get, but even thinking ahead to next year, if they do get to the point, it's like, hey, we're going to have you play this year and don't miss a game check. If you don't want to miss a game check, we'll figure it out next offseason. Matthew kind of got to that point pretty early on. We found out more after the fact when he kind of knew, like, oh, this extension just isn't happening. I do have my fear, though, that especially like you mentioned, if you tag him, goes south next year, everyone knows it's gone south. Now you're also not just trading the best defensive tackle in football. You are trading one of the best defensive tackles in football who's 30 years old at that point, a year from now.
Yep.
That, I don't know what the Chiefs would expect to get in return, but I have a hard time believing that it would be equivalent to a couple of years of impact from the actual Chris Jones.
My personal belief on this is if you're the Chiefs, you got to pay him.
Yeah.
I mean, I just don't know. I do know that defense doesn't work without him.
Yep.
It doesn't. I don't care how good Nick Bolton is. Watch how impacted Nick Bolton is when Chris Jones is standing in front of him.
Yep.
Like, watch how much harder it is for these young corners when everybody's got all day to throw because you don't have anybody who's a proven high-end pass rusher on that team. George Karlaftis looks terrific. Charles Amena, who's a nice player. They're not Chris Jones. I mean, I don't know how you could sit there and say, yeah, this is going to work. I mean, they're going to have to score 1,000,000 points on offense, in my opinion, if Chris Jones is there. And the ironic thing is, this goes to show how great Chris Jones is. I think if Jones is there might be a top 10 defense this year.
Yep, I do too.
But you take that guy out of there, and it just doesn't work. I mean, it's like you go out and buy a Maserati, but the engine block is made out of paper.
Yeah.
I mean, looks great, doesn't start.
Yeah.
So I really think if you're the Chiefs, look, there are only 3 guys on that roster I'd say that about. And Mahomes and Kelsey are the other 2. But I just think when you look at Chris Jones and what he's done and how important he is and what a leader he's been to that team, I think you probably just swallow hard and do it unless you just truly feel like the number, both guarantee and the annual average value is just so astronomical that you just flat can't justify it. Then, okay, fair enough. But, 30 a year, like I think 28's fair. How far is 30 from that?
Right.
I mean, so it's like you're going to lose him over, what, $6 million over 3 years? Like, I don't know. Is it worth it to you if you're the Chiefs to lose them over that? I don't think it is, but maybe they feel differently.
That's where I end up, and it's also one more reason that the other element of it that I do wonder about is if the spread right now is the Chiefs are drawing their line around 26 annually, and Jones's camp's around 30 annually. Well, good news, 28's right there in the middle, and you guys can figure this out. And maybe the Chiefs have to bend a little more than they want to. Maybe it's 28.5. Is there any feeling from you that the guarantees are also a part of the problem? Because that's the thing that would give me more concern. I think they can figure out a couple million here or there over the course of several years. That seems reasonable to me. If Jones wants significantly more guaranteed than the Chiefs are willing to offer, I would start getting nervous because that I could see the Chiefs starting to balk around there in terms of a defensive tackle or any player who will be entering his 30s.
Yeah, no, and I think that would be the bigger concern. I mean, that would be. So Donald got rolling guarantees up into the 90s.
Yep.
Does Jones want guarantees in the 90s? I mean, I can't blame the Chiefs at that point if they just say, well, we're not doing that.
Yeah.
I mean, we're just not going to fully guarantee the next 3 years. I mean, I get that. Quinnen Williams came in, I think it was $66 million guaranteed.
I think that's right.
So if you're the Chiefs, I think a fair number is like $28 million a year, and then $72 to $75 million guaranteed.
Yeah.
And then let's also be clear about this, because I feel like whenever this stuff happens, people always jump on the side of their team because they're fans of the team. Let's be honest. Chris Jones is a markedly better player than Quinnen Williams or Dexter Lawrence or Jeffrey Sims. Those guys are great players. They are not Chris Jones.
Yep.
I mean, Chris Jones wrecks games in a way that very few defensive tackles have ever done. I mean, he is in that class of like the upper crust of guys that when he plays the way he can play, as he did in the AFC title game, like he wins you the game. He basically won the game for them that night. He was so dominant. So I understand if you're Chris Jones saying, I don't care if I'm a D tackle or a D end. I want to get paid at the top of the mark for an edge rusher.
Yeah.
Like I get that. I also get the Chiefs sitting there saying, look, man, you just turned 29. Like, we don't want to do – but I think if you're being fair to Jones, he is such an unbelievable talent. I totally understand if he's sitting there going, well, don't treat me like I'm Quentin Williams, because I'm not. Yeah. Treat me more like I'm Aaron Donald, because I'm pretty damn close. And I think, there might be hesitancy, but I don't blame him.
Matt Verderame of Sports Illustrated is with us here. And so, Matt, I'll pivot from one part of the Chiefs that I don't want to see that side of the ball without him on the field to another part where that's largely true for me, but I'm pretty sure we're going to have to get used to it because today when Travis Kelce was asked about just being out there without Kadarius Toney for the time being, he gave us, I'm sure much to the Chiefs' chagrin, the most noteworthy injury update we've gotten so far in training camp. Travis Kelce on Kadarius Toney. He was saying the team had all the faith in the world in their training staff, quote, to get him ready either by season or early on in the season. That, to me, makes it sounds like the Chiefs know Kadarius Toney is hurt, and that we'll hear that officially from Andy Reid tomorrow, but maybe Kelce let it slip today. Walk me through how I should feel about Kadarius Toney right now, and then we can talk about the rest of the Chiefs receiver room without him.
I'm sure I'm in the complete minority with this. I obviously hope the guy is okay, and I hope Toney gets well. From a Chiefs perspective, I wouldn't be even remotely phased. To me, it doesn't change anything I think about the team. He's a spectacular talent. He has also been hurt constantly the first years of his career.
Yep.
This is not some shocking thing that he's hurt based on history. And sure, he's electric, and you want him on the field. They lit the Chargers up like a Christmas tree last year on primetime, playing you, me, and a ham sandwich at receiver.
Yeah.
It just doesn't matter. I know people get freaked out because of the names. I watched the Colts years ago. It was 2009. They were 14-0. They would have gone undefeated if they didn't just start resting guys. Peyton Manning was throwing to guys like Austin Collie and Griff Whalen.
Whoa,
and
I forgot. Good
that's
names.
Nice. That's nice. 40 points a game.
Yeah.
Here it comes.
Yeah.
If Mahomes is protected and he has Travis Kelce, they're scoring 1 billion points. I don't care. Look, all you got to do with him is get half the step open and just not drop it, and you're in pretty good shape. So, does it stink Tony's hurt? Sure, absolutely. You always want all your guys healthy. But do I think that team could go 15-2 with Kelce, MVS, Sky Moore, Rashee Rice, Richie James, and Justin Watson? Yep. Yeah, I do. I don't think it would change a whole heck of a lot for that team. Now, in the playoffs, a play here, a play there, that can be the whole difference. Playoffs are a different story. When they're playing Denver, I don't think it's going to kill them if Kadarius Toney's not there.
No, that's fair. And I really don't know what the answer to this question is because I'm trying to decide if it's even a dumb question fundamentally of, do the Chiefs win the Super Bowl without Kadarius Toney last year? And I lean yes because they would still have Patrick Mahomes, who just tends to figure out ways to win with whoever's there. But the impact was legitimate, right? So that's where I'm kind of tiptoeing.
It was, but I think the answer is yes.
I agree.
I mean, look. The biggest impact everybody always points to is the Super Bowl, right? Because the first play, with all due respect to Kadarius Toney, the touchdown catch.
Yes.
I mean, Nick Allegretti would have scored. He was open by 30 yards. I mean, he made a nice little cut and everything, but come on, he was open by 1 million yards. The big play that he made was the punt return, which, listen, full credit to him. That's a phenomenal play. That's the play that you look at and go, that's what you're missing when he's not there. The ability to just all of a sudden turn it on and make one spectacular play. And that's why I said, if he's not there in a playoff game, I don't think it necessarily sinks them, but it hurts you there because one play in a playoff game can just change everything. If they're playing the Raiders, is the spread I'll ask you a question. Week 1 against the Detroit Lions, whether he's there or he's not there, is the spread any different?
I don't think so. No,
it's not. No.
I wonder. I mean, I think non-Mahomes side. I think Kelce moves the line by half a point, maybe a point.
Yeah, half point. Yeah.
And I don't know if Chris Jones would he might, but it takes a lot, man.
Against upper echelon quarterbacks, but I mean, it's just they lost Tyreek Hill last year.
Yep.
And it was we'll throw for 5,200 yards and 40 touchdowns and win a Super Bowl. But they were completely unfazed by it. They just didn't. I'm a firm believer. when you have as good of a line as they do and as good of a quarterback as you do, plus the coach, you're just going to score a boatload of points. You just are. Because it really comes more down to scheme at that point. You're just scheming guys open. I mean, how many times does Mahomes throw a ball and the guy's just wide open 8 yards down? Now, I'm not saying this makes some great throws too, but he's going to make the – well, think about – I actually mentioned the game earlier. Think about that Chargers game in L.A., that throw Mahomes made down the seam to Fortson.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a throw that, like, I don't care who's down there. If the guy even has any hands, he's catching it. Fortson had the separation that I would have had on that play, and Mahomes just stuck it right on him. So, to me, I'm not saying Mahomes' life isn't made easier when you got a Tyreek Hill or somebody out there. Of course it is. But when you have that level of a quarterback, if he's protected and you have a good scheme, which they obviously do, you're going to score a ton of points. I just don't, I think, maybe you can throw a few more screens in there. Mm-hmm. You're going to throw a few more passes to Noah Gray. That's fine. I mean, maybe it takes you 10 plays to score a touchdown instead of 8. Still scoring the touchdown.
Mm-hmm. I think it's interesting to think about Tony as a guy who can make Mahomes' life a little easier, but isn't necessary to make the offense work. Like something kind of in that space is interesting to me. And so if Tony is missing significant time, if we look at the rest of the receiving depth chart, is there somebody who right now you have circled and you go, he would be the beneficiary of either not having Kadarius Toney out there very much this season or just the guy that you think is going to take a step?
I'm really interested in Sky Moore. Like I think a lot of people are. Look, Sky Moore, when he was on the field as a receiver last year, was pretty good. Mm-hmm. I mean, his biggest issue was sometimes when he ran his routes, and this is true of almost everybody coming out of college, sometimes instead of maybe like a hard cut, he'd round the cut a little bit. And you can do that in college. You can do it in college with 99% of the corners because those guys, they're not going to be able to drive the way an NFL corner does and get underneath you. I think that's something that, he's I'm sure worked on throughout the offseason, and he's worked a lot with Patrick Mahomes. I think Sky Moore is somebody who I would not be surprised if this year comes in and plays really, really well. I'm not saying he's going to have 1,000 yards. Like, I wouldn't be shocked if he had, 700 yards, something like that. Like, I think that's possible. And then, Rashee Rice, I mean, we all know with the Chiefs, usually rookie receivers don't get a whole lot of statistics, but who knows? I mean, look, they're the rare guy. You never know. You could draft a guy in the first round, guy could be a total bust. You could take somebody like a Tyreek Hill in the 5th round, and you're like, okay, yeah, that's nice. And then all of a sudden, about a week into camp, you're like, who is that? I mean, that's the nature of the NFL. So I think with the Chiefs, their cast of receivers is like the cast of Friends. It's just an ensemble, right? And like 1 week it's going to be this guy, and 1 week it's going to be this person. And then you have Kelsey, who's just every week's good for like 100 yards.
Matt, we could have spent this entire half hour talking about the rest of the league, explicitly excluding the Chiefs. But before we let you go real quick, give me something that you've found around the rest of the NFL that has really left you either just excited for the NFL season, something that you want to point people to on SI.com, or something going on in the league right now that's caught your attention that people ought to catch up on, which they can, again, read you at SI.com or follow you on Twitter or whatever this website's called, at Matt Verderame.
Yeah, on X, apparently, which makes it sound like I'm I won't even say what I was
It sounds bad. There's no good way to read it.
Yeah, it's not good. Well, yeah, I'll just be self-aggrandizing. So I am going to start a training camp tour on the old 35th birthday. So I'm headed out August 4th. I'm going to 8 different teams. I will be in Chicago, Cleveland, Cincinnati, Indianapolis, Detroit, Minnesota, Green Bay, and I will be spending 2 days in lovely St. Joe's. So I am looking forward. I think I'll be in KC August 14th and 15th, I think are the dates. So anybody sees me, give me a shout, say hi, whatever, flip me off, whatever you want to do. I don't blame you. So, no, I'm looking forward to it. It'll be a lot of fun. We'll have a ton of content coming out of that. And should be a good time. Looking for the first camp tour. It should be a blast.
And you are planning on hitting one Arby's location in each major city?
I think what I should do is find an Arby's location in every city and then just write a whole piece about that. Like power rank the Arby's.
Yes! Yes!
How devastating would it be if you're the worst Arby's? I mean, do you have to just close shop after that?
I think you should get to permanently close one Arby's just with your power in this story alone. I think you should get to promote one to like being something maybe better than an Arby's and then relegate one.
Like a Jason's Deli.
Yes, one of them evolves into a Jason's Deli and one of them is just shuttered and destroyed.
I want to just like take like a bite or two of each roast beef and cheddar because that's what I would get at every single stop, curly fries. And then if it's not good, just take like the bun off the top of the roast beef and cheddar and just like wail it like at the building. So people just, and I'll take a picture of it. So people just know, oh, that place has been marked. It's terrible.
Yes. Okay. This is the metric now is how much of the roast beef and cheddar is still stuck to the window out front.
Correct.
Because if there's just like one bite, you go, oh, you know, hey, Matt ate most of this sandwich. This must be a pretty good Arby's.
It's like the Dairy Queen people when they turn the ice cream upside down.
Yes.
It's the same thing.
It's like turning a blizzard, except for it's chucking a roast beef and cheddar.
Is there an Arby's in St. Joe's?
There sure is, man. There sure is. It's one of the spots I have frequented whenever I'm up there for a couple of days back to back. Sometimes you got to treat yourself to a little Arby's dinner. So I don't know when I'll be up there or if I'll be up there for that, but I'll buy Arby's whenever you're in town, Matt.
Beautiful.
Well, I weep for your car's tires and your gastrointestinal system, but I'm very excited to hear how the training camp tour goes, and I'm sure we'll talk to you at some point along the lines of it.
All right, sounds good.
Matt Verderam, the brave reporter that he is, from NFL training camps to their closest Arby's locations. You can read his work at SI.com and follow him on Twitter at Matt Verderam. I still want to talk about some Spags stuff. I still want to talk about some things Verderam laid out, and we're going to do mostly Chiefs throughout the rest of the day because the Royals have more or less left the chat, and the Chiefs just got here.
Want to see more of The Zone? Watch the show live on the Sports Radio 810 WHB Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch.
Shh. You hear that? You hear that? Look at... I can either talk about Kadarius Toney or Drew Tranquill. I'm Joshua Brisco, by the way. Jason Anderson back tomorrow. Thanks again to Matt Verderam of SI for joining us. Dylan Michaels on the other side of the glass. Dylan, I want to make you choose. Because we got all the way back from break, and I decided we can either go one level deeper on the Kadarius Toney side of things, or we can talk about what Steve Spagnuolo said. One of the takeaways being, I got a Drew Tranquill take. Offense or defense, Dylan? You tell me.
I'm feeling like the Drew Tranquill will be more uplifting, maybe, and we need that a little bit with the KT news that we may have gotten from Travis. So I'm going to go Drew Tranquill because I'm also excited about Drew Tranquill this season.
Let's talk about the Chiefs' defense then, and Drew Tranquill, a unit that I do really think is going to be right there in the conversation as a top 10 defense if they do get a contract extension figured out with Christopher Jones. If that doesn't happen, nothing I say about the Chiefs being a top 10 defense can or should be held against me. I think they're going to be a top 5 offense as long as Patrick Mahomes plays football for the Chiefs this year. I think they're going to be right on track as a top 10 defense. You hear them, I'm 8 to 12 or something. They get top 5, I don't know, but they'll be in that range. Genuinely, as a fringe top 10 defense, if the best player on their defense does play for them. A healthy caveat. My 2 takeaways from the Steve Spagnuolo press conference were that 1, football is back, Spags is back, we are back. And 2 is that we are going to see a lot of Drew Tranquill. Now, I figured as much before we ever heard from Spags, who started off by talking about the fact that he pretty much always begins his press conferences with, good morning, good afternoon, what time is it, what day is it, who did we play last week, I don't remember. I want to make sure this is clear one time again. I genuinely find great joy in Steve Spagnuolo press conferences. I really do. Like, the impressions and never knowing what time it is and realizing that he made a mistake today by not wearing a hat and his wife is going to be mad because he didn't put sunscreen on or whatever. I just find him to be an absolute treat to hear from once a week because he will tell you things about defense and the NFL. You know, he's not going to give you all the secrets, but he's not going to treat you like a dummy. He'll give good answers, thoughtful answers, really talk about the players and coaching, which I really enjoy. And he's just good for like 3 wholesome chuckles per presser. So when we do our Spags impressions around here, at least for me, it's coming from a place of love and appreciation. So the horn blew, and he got out there. And first, talking about this idea that also Nick Bolton, talking about being a top 10 defense, and Spags saying, look, we don't care about being top 10 in yards. That doesn't matter. But defensive efficiency and the 9 categories that make that up, points, third down, red zone, etc. Thought that was interesting because a lot of coaches talk about not caring about the metrics and the numbers and everything, but these are the metrics that you should be paying attention to, and it sounds like the Chiefs are. No surprise, just good to hear stuff like that. Paints a fuller picture. Then asked about Drew Tranquill, the former Chargers linebacker the Chiefs signed this offseason, which at the time, my reaction to that signing was, what? Really? The contract, totally fine. Don't have the numbers in front of me. Will you pull that up real quick, Dylan, what the details were on Tranquill's? Let's find a spot track or whatever. But 1-year deal, non-significant money, real money, but nothing crazy. And what Spags said that just immediately had me locking him into a significant role this year, talking about his positional versatility, that he, quote, stepped right in already. And Spags said it was like he had been here for 3 years. Oh, man. That right there is the rocket to the top of a Spags depth chart. What's he making this year, Dylan?
So he makes the base salary of $1,010,000, and his cap hit's $3 million for 1 year.
Okay, so there's other incentives, but his cap hit this year is
other incentives.
$3 million.
Yes,
that's the salary cap hit.
Yep.
So $3 million cap hit, totally like fudgeable money. 1 year deal, so if it doesn't work out, no biggie. But I think it's going to work out great. I think it's going to work out well for him. I'm imagining that Tranquill's next deal will probably be the one that takes him back out of Kansas City because somebody gives him 3 for 25 or whatever. However that his market evolves. We'll see how this year goes. But I think it's a good bet for Tranquill and a good bet for the Chiefs. But I was surprised because they draft Willie Gay in the second round. They draft Nick Bolton in the second round. They draft Leo Chanel the year after, not in the second round, but still early. They've invested a lot in their linebackers. Not a terribly modern thing to do. Not terribly analytically sound, just in terms of the general value of the position, the off-ball linebackers. But they've got rookie deals with all of them, so I'm not like wringing my hands. And everybody loves Nick Bolton. Everybody except for Spags loves Willie Gay. That's not totally fair, but it's a little fair. But part of the thing that Spagnuolo clearly really values, and something that I think is then a part of the question on Willie Gay, it's part of the things he loves about Nick Bolton, something he loved about Ben Neiman and Dan Sorensen. They knew what the call was, where to be, how to read it, how to react to it, all of those things. The issue for late stage Ben Neiman and Dan Sorensen was that they knew where to be, but they couldn't get there fast enough for it to matter. Willie Gay, even as a rookie, really did not know where to be, but got there fast. And that's something where the NFL, I think, has become a little more forward-thinking to say, I'd rather you make a fast mistake than a slow, correct decision. I can't remember who it was. I think it might have been Kim Jordan who was talking about that at that pass rusher camp and said, we love a slow, correct decision. We call them Kirk Cousins. That was before quarterback, though, so, we had a good laugh at it. Now I would never disrespect Kirk Cousins. Yeah, jokes still live. But I think it's fascinating and very telling for Spags to say, positional versatility, stepped right in like he'd been here for 3 years, playing different positions right now, probably going to play all 3, plus sub-packages. That's all stuff Spags said today in one answer, maybe 2, about Drew Tranquill. You're going to see a ton of him this year. In part because Spags already trusts him, it sounds like, or at least is starting in a good place to continue building up that trust. Comfortable in the scheme, knows what to be reading and then where to be. And I think the argument here, even if, I think yesterday, the starting lineup was Bolton, Gay, and Chanel. The reason Drew Tranquill is going to be on the field all the time is because he can be on the field anytime in this layout that Spags mentions today. In this circumstance, he's already playing different positions. He'll probably be able to play all of them. He's also going to be in sub-packages. There's never a time he has to leave the field if this vision for him is true, and therefore he won't leave the field all that often. I think there will be a lot of times this year when Nick Bolton and Drew Tranquill are your dime linebackers, or your nickel linebackers. I don't know what happens when it's just one. I don't know when it is a dime package. I think it's probably going to be Nick Bolton, despite him not being the strongest coverage linebacker to this point. We'll see if any of that changes with another year in the league for him. It's never been a processing issue for Nick Bolton, obviously. It's just being laterally quick. That's something that Gay is more laterally quick than Bolton, but it hasn't really become fully his job. Chanel is not your coverage guy at the moment. So it's probably going to be Tranquill or Bolton because I think, again, Bolton clearly has the faith of Spags and the defensive coaching staff, and it seems like Tranquill is working that way very, very quickly. So maybe I don't know if that's uplifting or not because you may want to just see more Willie Gay, and this is very scary. But I think people are going to be they're going to be happy with what Drew Tranquill brings.
It's good problems to have when you have all these options and all these questions at a position that seems to be kind of a dying position a bit with the way the offenses are. So, and I think that Drew provides depth and makes other, Chanel's and Gay and Bolton a little less dependent on themselves for every snap.
You win by not having to put Leo Chanel in a situation you don't want him in.
100%.
So that is absolutely. The redundancy's there. It's why the cost for Tranquill's deal I do think matters. It's a good level-headed investment. That does seem like now you have an embarrassment of riches at a dying position, or at least a decreasing in value position.
Yes.
Linebackers are still playing football, but less of them. I mean, because you are seeing sub-packages. What were historically known as sub packages actually being your central base defense now. I can't remember what it was ahead of. I think it was ahead of last year. It might have been ahead of 2 years ago that Spags talked about being in sub packages 70% of the time now. You do not get a lot of 3-4-4-3 and 2 corners on the outside, 2 safeties deep back. That's not actually based in the NFL anymore. So that flexibility from your linebackers, that athleticism, that really matters. It's why they signed Drew Tranquill. It's why I was a little surprised to realize that they signed, and originally when that deal came down, I was surprised to see that they signed him for as little as they did, because I thought that he had some things that were more valuable to the modern NFL linebacker that would have gotten him paid more that a lot of other guys can't bring. Not the case, though, and so he's a Chief, and I think he's going to be all over the place. We'll keep an eye on that. The defense is at least mildly more fun to talk about right now because we're talking about guys to be excited about, not guys being banged up. And then it's what's exactly going on with Chris Jones. These are the moving targets. It's training camp, baby. We're so freaking back.
Want to see more of The Zone? Watch the show live on the Sports Radio 810 WHB Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch.
Make purchasing your home fast and easy with a low fixed rate in the 5s from Cap One Lending. We offer 0 down payment, approvals in an hour, and no payments for 2 months. Call Cap One Lending, 816-905-1111. That's 816-905-1111. Or apply at caponelending.com. What could be better than 100% loan programs with 0 down payment, approvals in an hour, and no payments for 2 months? Your first step to homeownership is knowing you're already approved with a 5-star rated lender. Call Cap One.
early, and I had nothing better to do.
Wanted to get out of the house.
Beers, can you clip that for cut so I can have that just as a reminder of how my high school experience went?
Weekdays from 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
Maybe this is the segment we talked about the Royals today. Because I really tried last night, or yesterday. It felt like a dark night. Whatever time that game was happening. It was the evening to me. Today might actually be the one, by the way. I think I said on Thursday or Friday, like it felt like maybe baseball season had ended. Things have been bleak. What's it now? 5 in a row? Swept by the Yankees.
Training camp starting.
And you get this. Because we actually have had 3 going on 4 full hours of real Chiefs topics to talk about. Chris Jones doesn't report. Kadarius Toney's hurt. Rashee Rice looking good. Richie James looking good. We have something more interesting to keep our attention now. And every time I look over at the Royals, it just makes me a little sad. I'm turning off the horror movie and I'm watching Barbie again. And the Chiefs are more fun for it.
Sports Radio 810 is proud to be Kansas City's home for the National Football League.
65-yard punt return. Kadarius Toney.
From Monday night to Sunday night and every game in between. Keep it right here on your exclusive home for the NFL, the NFL playoffs, and the Super Bowl.
It's over. The Chiefs have won. The Chiefs have won Super Bowl 57.
Sports Radio 810 WHB.
Trucks, and more trucks are at Robert Brogdon's Olathe Buick GMC. From the powerful new GMC Sierra 1500 to the all-new redesigned GMC Canyon, they've got them ready to drive home today. Visit robertbrogdon.com. GMC, we are professional grade.
Have you checked out Creekmore lately? One of the nicest upscale golf courses in Kansas City has a beautiful renovated clubhouse, open to the public each day of the week and breakfast on the weekend. The new patio and bar is a great setting to watch all your favorite sporting events. The patio is also available to host birthday or graduation parties, wedding receptions, or just about any event. For more information or to schedule your next event, give Rick Scott, General Manager, a call at 816-331-2621. The Golf Club at Creekmore.
No fear. Look, was the dialogue all pretty quick? Were you playing at 1.5 times speed? Yeah, you were. Right now, you're sitting in the radio studio with me, Josh Brisco, and him, Sterling Holmes. This is generally a pretty fast-talking group, more or less. It's The Zone here. It's a Monday. Jason Anderson will be back tomorrow, but I'm over here in this chair today, which means that chair that usually I sit in and that chair that usually Mick Schaefer sits in, well, I'm over here today. Mick is gone. So Stu steps in. You can listen to Sterling Holmes every day over on ESPN Kansas City 3 to 4 on the home stretch. ESPN Kansas City 1510 AM 94.5 FM, and don't you forget it. Plus frequently many nights here on Sports Radio 810 WHB, including tonight, Stu.
Yeah, 7 to 10, baby.
So tonight we got 3 hours of home stretch in it.
It's a party.
It's a party, and you're spending an hour with us here today to really pregame, and I really appreciate that.
Yeah,
Sterling.
I pregamed this show.
Good.
I chugged a pre-workout and then did some push-ups, and my face turned a color your face is not supposed to turn.
Yeah, you familiar with VeggieTales? The
tomato. Which,
yeah,
by the way,
you got some Bob the Tomato.
Can we talk about VeggieTales? This is why everyone got so confused as a child. A tomato is a fruit.
Yeah.
And yet it's on VeggieTales. And I can understand this is all part of Big Pharma. This is all Big Pharma trying to confuse these children.
Excuse me, Big Farmer.
Bum 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 bum.
There are grapes and stuff in VeggieTales also. I don't know how many fruits there are in VeggieTales. I just know that was obviously for everything that my general brand now reflects. I watched maybe every single VeggieTales ever created.
Larry the Cucumber goes very hard.
Dylan, can you just mark that one for me and then remind me? Let me just go ahead and just hour 4. Hold on. Sorry. Whenever Jason's hosting, it's easy, but
you get a lot of marks with me. I'm good for
down.
you. Okay, I'm helping your brand.
I'm a big Larry Boy guy personally. That's the superhero Larry the Cucumber with the plungers for kind of ears and everything. That to me, I mean my Marvel Cinematic Universe starts with a cucumber, personally, but that's just me. Did you get a chance to do either half or both halves of Barbenheimer over the weekend?
No. I'm going to with my new fiance.
Congratulations, by the way.
Thank you.
What happened to your old fiance?
We don't ask about that one.
Okay.
We don't ask about that one.
Sterling is recently engaged. Congratulations, Sterling.
Thank you.
So you guys are going to go see them both?
She wants to see Barbie.
Yeah.
And she said I can go see it with the guys, Oppenheimer.
Okay.
And I'm excited for Oppenheimer.
You're going to go see Barbie with her, though, right?
Yes, I'll see Barbie with her.
They're both legitimately excellent. I won't try to run you through any more of the details or anything, but I think you will legitimately enjoy them both.
Yeah, I made a deal where she gets Barbie, I get to watch Big Lebowski whilst consuming a large amount of White Russians, and I feel like that's a pretty good trade-off.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And again, I think you will have several good laugh out loud moments in Barbie. It is I won't say it's even sneaky funny. It's just funny, and I can't believe that they did as much in that movie as they did. Because I remember what it was like seeing the tweet of announced for 2024 the movie Barbie, because we had Battleship and Tetris and some of those. I'm sure there are more that I'm forgetting.
Did you dress up for Barbie? Because you seem like a man who, in the nicest way possible. I'm surprised you don't just have the mustache, though.
I thought about him.
You with just the kind of blondish mustache is very on-brand Barbie for you.
Yeah. I mean, did I dress up for Barbie? I mean, you're seeing.
He dressed up for Barbie.
Now it's not. I did not go as hard as I could have in terms of the fit. Here you can see it's mostly the shirt had the sort of pastel read. You can witness this if you'd like. It's partially that I have my entire life. I have at least had friends who were dress up for movies. People. We did a lot of like midnight premieres for things. My mom sent the memory.
Do you also clap
from
when
like
the
Dark
plan
Knight
lanes?
Rises?
Do you guys
No, and I don't clap at movies either because people did clap. I think in both Oppenheimer and Barbie.
See, I get it if like the director's back there.
Totally.
Like,
yeah,
sure. Hey, let's give him some credit.
Oh, absolutely.
But director's not. Who are you clapping for?
Just the person who hits
the
play,
person
right?
who's hitting play back there.
No, I'm with you. I mean, if you want to express your appreciation for a film, find a way to do that. And if you want to clap, you're not hurting anybody.
No,
clap away, I guess. But I'm not a movie clapper. I don't think I'm a plane clapper unless there's some reason for me to think the degree of difficulty was raised for that one.
Sure, and sometimes it's almost like it was the pilot's fault, so why am I going to clap for the pilot?
That's right.
Who
may have added
caused
some turbulence.
The turbulence.
Yeah.
Added to it, yes. In addition to.
That's a good call. That's a good take.
There's also a police chase apparently going on out here somewhere.
Yeah, they heard how good that Sports Center was, and they were like, "Not again." I called them in. I was like, "I can't get shut
Reed,
up
that
like
was
this again."
There's a fire at 810. It's Reed Sports Center.
Some people's speakers simultaneously combusted, and like, "Whoa, what's going on around the city?" It's just the Sports Center was too good. Sterling, what are you more worried about right now? This is how we're gonna start. What are you more worried about right now? Chiefs head trainer Travis Kelce breaking some news about Kadarius Toney, or Chris Jones not being at training camp to this point. Adam Schefter also has a Kadarius Toney update right now. So let's see if this changes it for you. Adam Schefter tweets, Chiefs wide receiver Kadarius Toney, who underwent an offseason cleanup procedure on his knee. Did we know that? I don't think that was out before this. Chiefs wide receiver Kadarius Toney, who underwent an offseason cleanup procedure on his knee, aggravated the injury Sunday while fielding a punt and is expected to miss some time during training camp, but be ready for the start of the regular season, per league source.
Couple things.
Hit me.
Chris Jones for sure, because Chris Jones is way more impactful than Kadarius Toney. Second thing, why the bleep is Kadarius Toney catching punts in training camp? I thought that was the whole reason why you brought in other guys. Kadarius Toney, if you want him to be a wide receiver, have him be a wide receiver, not a punt returner. You know he has the ability of Sammy Watkins to perpetually get injured. Why put him in another situation where, guess what? That's added wear and tear on a guy where you're not getting the best value from, okay? And then third thing, have we asked Travis Kelce his thoughts about the Chris Jones situation? Because apparently he's going to spill the beans on Kadarius. Maybe he'll give us something on Chris.
Your last point is your best one, I think, because just to hear it, Travis, what have you heard on the contract situation with Chris Jones? Like, oh God, yeah. So let me think. All right, so I think we just offered him 26 per year. The guarantees were around Quinn Williams. He wants 30. I think we'll get it figured out somewhere around 28. The guarantees are the bigger problem, though. Yeah, that would be. I think that's an incredible idea. Let's just ask Travis Kelce anything. Just, hey man, what's Barbie or Oppenheimer?
But I think obviously Chris Jones is the bigger deal. But when it comes to what makes me upset about this thing is Kadarius Toney returning punts in training camp.
This is great because that doesn't bother me one nanoparticle.
This bothers me irrationally, maybe. But
I hope people on the video stream can see that I have an all-black mic cover and you have a hot pink mic cover
today. Do you know
today.
whose this is?
That's mine.
That's yours.
That was my hot pink mic cover, and I just realized that we're nailing the aesthetic. Go ahead and complain about Kadarius Toney fielding punts. I'm going to tell you why I'm not worried about it.
And yours is Oppenheimer's.
Yeah,
that's kind of what we're going with.
This is the aesthetic.
No,
yeah,
the
really
reason why I'm so irate right now is Kadarius Toney has, again, not shown the ability to stay healthy to begin with. He has been perpetually bitten by the injury bug. Why would you put him as a returner? I'm not saying he's not the best punt returner on this team.
Mm-hmm.
I think he probably makes a case that he is. Mm-hmm. But what did the Chiefs do eventually with Tyreek Hill?
They eventually took him out.
They took him out.
Yep,
they said, hey,
too big a part of the offense.
They said, Tyreek Hill, you are more valuable to this team as a wide receiver. Are you the best punt returner? Yes, you are. But you're more valuable as a wide receiver. And by the way, Tyreek Hill didn't come with the plethora of injury concerns. He had some, but not the extreme amount that Kadarius Toney has already suffered in his young career.
Yep.
Why put Kadarius Toney in this situation? It makes no sense to me. I understand it could happen at any given time. He could have been injured on a wide receiver screen. He could have been injured walking and getting some water. I get it. Salvador Perez got injured carrying luggage. I mean,
sure.
So I understand it could happen at any given point. My situation here and my perspective is take away every extra opportunity, especially one where I don't think he was going to be the punt return man in the season, maybe in extreme situations where if it is the Super Bowl,
right,
then fine. But you brought in Richie James. he has been a return man. You're trying out Justin and John Ross back there. We're hearing all this talk about Remigio.
Yeah, I love how you said that.
Nico Remigio.
Is that how we're saying it?
That's how we're saying it. That's how
I
I'm
love
saying
that.
Yeah.
Hey, Sky Moore said he was back there catching
Sky
punts
Moore's
again.
back there. Justin Watson's back there. Hell, you were getting Deneric Prince apparently is Niall Davis. I get that's kick return, but still. Like, the point is, there's a plethora of dudes back there.
Yeah.
Stop putting Kadarius Toney, whose knees are apparently made of Kleenex back there. It makes no sense to me.
Here's why that doesn't bother me. A few parts of it, but I hear you, and this feeling that Kadarius Toney just needs to be put into carbonite for as much as possible to then break him out for the breadth of time he is healthy. Yes. I understand that.
Yes.
I do. It's a part of his story at this point. It's a part of why he's both exciting and frustrating right now. Guys field punts just to like rotate through that all the time. And I don't know if this was an idea of, hey, this is going to be a place where Kadarius Toney partially makes his money this year, where we are going to let him be the full-time guy. It will take him off the field maybe for that first snap of the offense, which I think is unlikely. I think the idea is have Kadarius Toney be kind of in the similar later Tyreek Hill role where he is a huge part of the offense, and maybe he ends up returning a punt when you're down by 6 points in the fourth quarter. But he is their best punt returner, because he might be one of the best in football when he's healthy and doing it.
Tyreek Hill was too.
And that's totally fair. But the biggest thing for me is that it just probably didn't matter when or where or how, because it wasn't even a special teams drill. It wasn't even during practice. The official framing, I wasn't there, so I'm taking the reports from all the reporters who were there on Sunday. The official timing and reporting is that he tweaked his knee fielding punts before practice. And
that's a trying to get loose situation.
Yeah, it's just, all right, I got a helmet on for the first time. We're setting foot in St. Joe, and that foot exploded.
Yeah.
All right, you know what, we're going to catch this punt, put down a little shimmy, and that didn't feel quite right. Well, that is just, it's so deflating.
We laugh all the time about how the way he jukes his knees, he jukes himself, but it's a real thing. You say it half-heartedly as a joke, but it's also that sad instance where there's truth underlying in it, where yes, he is so shifty, he shifts everyone else away from him. His knees also shift away from him as well, and then this is what you're left with. Again, I get what you're saying. It was probably a getting loose situation. I just never want him punt returning at all. Again, it's why you move Tyreek Hill away. If you want him to be the best wide receiver one you can, you focus on him being the best wide receiver one you can, not returning punts. If you have injury concerns, I'm sure part of that was why Sammy Watkins, also he was a first-round draft pick, but Sammy Watkins was a very good athlete, right? But you're not putting him back there because of the injury concerns. Don't put Toney back there because of the injury concerns. Again, you brought in Richie James. You have guys on this team. First off, I don't like it.
Yeah.
I don't like it.
One thing maybe you will like out of this is that I think your Sky Moore and Richie James stocks are probably getting only more and more valuable, and my Kadarius Toney stocks look like my crypto portfolio right now. Good news is I invested less in that than the Chiefs invested in Kadarius Toney, so we're okay. But
I invested so much in Richie James stock.
You were selling other things in your house. Yes.
No, legitimately, I bet my house on this. Yeah, I was white knuckling this for a while now. Feel better.
I think you probably should. The reports were good out of day one. Now, look, receivers running without pads and defensive backs covering them without pads. It's not NFL football.
Well, they're all in the best shape of their life right now.
And except for Kadarius Toney. Everybody except for Kadarius Toney is currently in the best shape of their life. Bleep, man, it makes me so sad. But you have been a true believer in Richie James since before the Chiefs signed him.
Yeah, about a month before.
And you have been on the Sky Moore leading this team in receptions train for a while. Tell me why I should be feeling okay about the Chiefs wide receiving core outside of Kadarius Toney, and don't just tell me because of Patrick Mahomes, because we know Mahomes is going to raise the level for everybody involved.
Sure.
But with these guys in particular, Why have you bought into Richie James and Sky Moore the way you have?
Okay, so Richie James got it done last year. Let me pull up a couple of numbers for you.
I love numbers.
Didn't have this in front of me before the show.
Sorry.
So
I could have told you what we were going to talk about.
I won't have the analytics in front of me.
All you had was Jordan Lyle's spin rate. And I was like, Sterling, we're not going to talk about Jordan Lyles
and
today.
I'll say, hey, here's some reason why some team should take a chance on a guy who's going to throw 98 pitches a game.
This is a great point. You know what? We should talk about Jordan Lyles. Trade value through the roof. I think somebody should make a Godfather offer.
Okay, so Richie James, let me see if I can go find his game-by-game log. If I can. If not, it's not a huge deal.
If not, we can bring the stats back next segment if
we'll bring it back
okay.
later.
I want to talk about Chris Jones also.
The reason why I like Richie James so much was he was on a pretty poor offensive team with the Giants.
Fair.
Danny Dimes, for that huge contract he signed, we're not kidding ourselves. He's maybe top 20. Maybe.
I think top 20 is probably about right.
He's probably about 18 to 22-ish, right?
I'll give him 15 to 20. I don't know.
The Giants had no one at receiver. They were falling down. They signed Kenny Golladay, and he decided that he was basically just done playing football. He just didn't care. Sterling Shepard kept getting injured. No one was stepping up except for who? Richie James. And I don't have these numbers in front, which is what I was trying to find, was the analytical numbers of him getting open.
Oh, hey, sorry. Kadarius Toney has tweeted now. Can I hit you with this detail real quick, and then you can tell me about your Richie James love again? Tony says, report slightly wrong, but I'll definitely be back soon. Red emoji, red heart emoji, yellow heart emoji. Love you. Hashtag Chiefs Kingdom.
Well, soon is relative.
Yeah, and report slightly wrong is relative.
That's not completely wrong.
Well, no, it's not. And now what part of it's slightly wrong? Does that mean it's going to be longer than?
Or maybe it's when Travis Kelce said it might be out for the start of the season. Maybe it's like, hey, I'll be back before then. Like, I'll be back for preseason.
Right. So, okay, but so Schefter's tweet.
Okay, hear me out. My name is very close to Sherlock Holmes, okay? It's like 3 letters off.
Do you have an answer for me?
No, I don't have an answer. I just figured maybe I could use some my.
Schefter says Tony, quote, is expected to miss some time during training camp, but be ready for the start of the regular season. Tony says, report slightly wrong, but I'll definitely be back soon. Report slightly wrong, but makes it sound like if it's only slightly wrong, he's still going to miss some time.
It's like game 2 is when he's back instead of game 1.
It feels, to me, this would be a weird way to tweet about it. To me, it feels kind of like Kadarius Toney is saying, yeah, I'm going to be ready for early on in the regular season.
Yeah.
To say slightly wrong, but it's still not, I'm still not out for the year. I don't know. That sounds more serious to me, and it makes me unhappy. So make me feel better by telling me about how great Richie James is.
You know why you should feel better? Because Richard Rondell James Jr. is on this team.
I feel so much better.
Okay. His ability to get open, his separation, and his ability to actually come down with the ball. He's only 5'9", not a big dude. But the fact that he's able to not drop the rock, he doesn't have hands of stone. He was getting open and making big plays with Daniel Jones throwing him the ball should make you slightly excited. By the way, I like Brian Daboll. Good coach.
Mm-hmm.
He ain't Andy Reid.
Mm-hmm.
Andy Reid can scheme anyone open. He can make Kevin Kolb look like a good NFL quarterback. He made Chad Henne go 98 yards in a playoff game. He trusted Chad Henne on 4th and 2. Yeah, what are they going to do? Run it? Nah. They're going to speed out right and throw a quick pass and in and out to Tyreek. Like, the point is, it's not just these receivers. It's the scheme as well. Andy gets the best of his guys. Not just Mahomes.
Yep.
He does. But you said you don't want Mahomes talk, so I'll give you the coaching staff side of things.
Yeah, I like it.
So I think if you're looking at the coaching staff side too, they're going to scheme these guys open. I think Richie James does have the separation ability that which he showed in New York. MVS at this point is who he is, I think, which is
useful.
A useful player.
It's a player you need to have on a functional roster.
It's hilarious that no one talks about MVS when I think he might have I think him and Richie James are the most important pieces at wide receiver as far as you know what they are.
More than Sky?
Because I love Sky Moore, but we still, to an extent, don't know what he is.
Okay, yeah.
To me, Richie James, to an extent, Justin Watson and MVS are, if you think of it as a roller coaster, you have to be this high to ride. You have to be this good to see the field. You have to be better than Justin Watson to see the field. You have to be better than MVS to see the field. And that's a good thing. I'm not saying these guys are wide receiver ones. I'm not trying to blow smoke. I'm not going to finish that sentence.
Appreciate it.
But the point is, there's a higher floor, I think, than a lot of people believe there is.
Yeah, I think I'm in that category where I am worried about the floor, but I do think it's fair to say the floor isn't actually set by the wide receivers. The floor is set by Patrick Mahomes, the coaching staff, and to some extent the offensive line. Because if the offensive line was Swiss cheese, a la the Bucs Super Bowl, you can have all the brilliance of Mahomes and Andy Reid, but if no one's getting open and Mahomes has no time, eventually things start to fall apart. A place we ended up with Verderame.
How about this?
Go ahead, yeah.
Would you rather have Jawan Taylor or would you rather have Juju Smith-Schuster?
Well, their numbers are slightly different. So
No, I get it. But the point is, let's just say here, for example, would you rather have Jawan Taylor instead of Andrew Wiley, and then there's your upgrade at right tackle, and instead of Juju Smith-Schuster, you brought in Richie James?
Right. It's because the replacement level parts of it matter. I think as a long-term investment, and this is also part of the place where, like, I'm not mad at the Chiefs front office for where the receiving room is at right now. This is kind of one of the things we opened the show with. I don't think the Chiefs made some huge mistakes or big hacks that they regret now, and now they're burned by them. Because I don't think that paying DeAndre Hopkins all that money would have been a good investment. I don't think paying Odell Beckham Jr. all that money would have been a good investment.
Agreed.
And I do think that saying, hey, you know what? Locking down Jawan Taylor to be one of these tackles, whichever side he ends up on, for the next 4 years, there's a lot of value in that I feel good about. But I think this is a part where we ended up with things with Verderame, where he also is of a similar mind that says, hey, look, Richie James, Sky Moore, Justin Watson, MVS, whatever, this is a Mahomes offense, it's an Andy Reid offense, and it's a Travis Kelce offense, which we do still need to remember. One of the best receivers in football is on this team. He just doesn't get a WR by his name. With all that being said, I do think there's a value, and I think the Chiefs have shown us that they believe also that there's a value in making life easier on Mahomes. And that's what Kadarius Toney is able to do. We know that because we've seen it. It's what Tyreek Hill did to an extraordinarily high level. I want to make life easier on Mahomes where you can, where it's not always the end of Peyton Manning in Indianapolis. It's not always Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay. Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay eventually, I think, just got tough of life always being a little harder than it needed to be with his pass catchers. I don't think the Chiefs are going that direction. They have Travis Kelce. Aaron Rodgers would have stampeded over broken glass barefoot for miles to ever get to throw the football to Travis Kelce. But I do want to try to make sure the Chiefs aren't asking Mahomes to be superhuman all the time.
So I'm looking right now on PFF. If you're looking at receiving grades from last year, I'm not saying PFF's the end-all, be-all, but I think it's a good jumping-off point.
Sure.
Tyreek Hill was first, Devontae Adams second, Justin Jefferson, Amon-Ra St. Brown, the most underrated wide receiver, I think, in football. He's up there. Stephon Diggs. Okay, so the top list, I think we're all pretty much in agreement here. Okay, now we're going down a little bit at 20. You have T. Higgins. And then right here, I'm on the receiving grades now. You get down Allen Lazard, DeAndre Hopkins, and then Richie James. I'm not saying Richie James is DeAndre Hopkins, but again, the point I'm saying here is Richie James is much better than people think he is. You look at the underlying numbers. You saw just under 600 yards last year. He didn't really play until halfway through the year, and then he was the guy who stepped up. Trust me, I know, fantasy football, thank you, Richie James. But he was actually graded higher than, guess who? Juju Smith-Schuster.
Oh, fun.
Graded just a couple spots.
There are also some other metrics that we've talked about on this show that Jason's found. I don't have all the links, but like that also love Richie James well beyond his counting stats. This is not an outlier.
Higher than Brandon Cooks, Michael Pittman Jr., Tyler Boyd, Curtis Samuel, Deontay Johnson, Cortland Sutton, George Pickens, and Hollywood Brown. Again, I'm not saying that who would you rather have, Hollywood Brown or Richie James, but if you're looking at the reasons for optimisms of the underlying numbers, give a larger sample size, more snaps to Richie James, well, there's some reason to be excited.
Yeah, I think there is. I just know the reasons to be excited about Kadarius Toney, and therefore I am still a little bit sad. We haven't talked that much about Chris Jones, which you've already said was a bigger concern for you. Let's take a break. We'll come back. We do Learn Funniest Best, learn some things this weekend, laugh at some things this weekend, had some good things happen this weekend. Hopefully that's true for all three of us. I hope we're all ready for that. I hope we've all got something. If you can't learn, laugh, and appreciate something once every weekend, I think we all got to do something a little bit better. So we'll take a time out. We'll come back, do that. If we have some extra time, we might chat about number 95 a little bit. Although, by the way, the thing's sounding right now, I think we might have a few days to talk about Chris Jones not being in St. Joe. We'll talk about that some more and do a little LFB next in the zone.
You're in the zone on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
I've been waiting for this.
Sorry.
Weekdays from 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
In case you missed it, all the recent news here on Kadarius Toney. Adam Schefter tweeting about half an hour ago that Toney underwent an offseason cleanup procedure on his knee, aggravated that injury on Sunday, fielding a punt, and is expected to, quote, miss some time during training camp, but be ready for the start of the regular season, per league source. That's from Adam Schefter. Kadarius Toney, a few minutes after that, tweets, report slightly wrong, but I'll definitely be back soon. Love you. # Chiefs Kingdom. So we talked about the timeline there would be not ideal if that's the part that he's disagreeing with. Intern Reed and SportsCenter expert Reed made the point that maybe something else there is what he is nitpicking with. What was the cleanup procedure? Was that the same issue aggravated? Was it a different? Right now there's a lot that's cloudy, and I'm sure Andy Reid will clean all that up for us tomorrow. Oh, he won't? He's probably not going to give us any more details than Travis Kelce did? Well,
we'll go back to Travis. Go back to the source.
Seriously, let's go back to the real insider here, the injury updater, who we really need being Travis Kelce. What we really need right now is to figure out what we learned, what we enjoyed, what was the best part of this week, of this weekend for all of us. Jason Anderson out today. He'll be back tomorrow. Joshua Brisco, Sterling Holmes, Mick Schaefer's out. I think he's back on Friday. I don't know. And Dylan Michaels on the other side of the glass. So we'll have our little LFB triangle right after this.
Yeah, Learned Funniest Best brought to you by Pyramid Roofing Company. Make sure you go to pyramidroofingkc.com. Fast, friendly service, fair prices, and quality workmanship. Give them a call, 816-966-1101.
Beautiful work there, Sterling. And I'll tell you what I learned. I can never remember what the actual order of this is, so I'm just going to yell at us and we'll get all the way through it. What I learned is that apparently this website that still on my tab here has a little bird logo in the top left corner. I learned Twitter's not Twitter anymore. I also learned about Elon Musk's long history with just like loving the letter X. Apparently that was what he wanted PayPal to just continue to be called, X.com. And then eventually people were like, hey, no, that can't possibly be what we do here. You shoo, and we're going to just take it from here. Well, now it's back. And so now in a series of truly unusable changes after those have all plagued Twitter.com, now Twitter.com/X.com/ it's just a Unicode symbol, so it's just like a special character is now the logo. I don't know. You can follow me at JB Brisco on literally any social media outlet that I have found a place to sign up on. So I think we're all going down with this ship, unfortunately.
He might be a huge ZZ Top fan because they have a song "Heard It on the X."
Okay.
So now they have a whole song, whole mantra, if you will.
I do think it's weird that he changed the rocket company's name to Space Twitter, but 1X in, 1X out, I guess. I don't know. I learned a lot about the state of that website over the weekend, but certainly wasn't the best thing that I learned. Stu, what did you learn this weekend?
I learned that the Colin Hay album, Man at Work. He's a singer of the band Men at Work.
Come on.
So he had a solo album called Man at Work. And that album is an absolute masterpiece.
Really?
Unreal.
So it turns out you don't need all those men at work.
You just need the man at work.
The one man
at work. I mean, I guess, bad for the economy. He's not giving people jobs, Colin Hay, but why pay more when you just need one guy to do it? Listen to it. It's unreal. Way better version of Down Under. Really cool.
Really?
Oh, yeah, way
Whoa,
better.
Wait. He's doing like remixes of Men at Work songs?
Well, he's the singer, so it's his. He is basically Men at Work to begin with. It was like a rotating band behind him for a while. So Colin Hay just went off, did his own thing. He now does some stuff with Ringo Starr's all-star band. But I love Colin Hay. His voice is phenomenal.
Dude.
The song Overkill is outstanding. It's a Mistake, really good. Couldn't recommend this album, Man at Work, anymore.
All right. Well, I really like the idea of just also one, and it wouldn't really work with him and Ringo, I suppose, because I don't know the politics of Men at Work and who's who, but you get like next up The Edge, grab him from U2, bring him in. We're just gonna have like the number twos or the backups or some version where these members of super bands just band together to say no. bleep you guys, we're starting a new band over here. I kind of like that idea.
They do still have guys like Edgar Winter from Edgar Winter Band. You know, the song Frankenstein.
Not really, but I believe you.
No, okay. They've had, Dr. John, Joe Walsh. They've had some big names in Edgar Winter's, or not Edgar Winter's, in Ringo Starr's band, which, by the way, I did not know how old Ringo Starr was because you look at a picture, he doesn't look that old. He is...
Sneaky old?
Guess how old you think Ringo Starr is? I mean, obviously the Beatles, so you know.
Yeah, I'm going to say he's 25. Dylan, what's your guess?
Good Beards guess right there.
Dylan,
in honor of Beards.
How old
there
is
you
Ringo?
go.
I'm gonna say he's 78. Dylan?
Ringo, I'm going to go with 84.
He's 83. I thought he was going to be like 90. I thought he was going to be 90. I mean, the Beatles were huge in the 60s.
Yeah.
So he would have been in his 20s. So I'm thinking, okay, he's probably late 80s. He's 83. But then you look at his picture, that was him 4 years ago. That's a man who looks late 50s, early 60s.
I tell you what, I know money can't make you immortal, but it can make you not look 80, because that's a great picture there for
that
Ringo.
guy looks like Bono a little bit.
Does look a little bit like Bono,
Bono-esque.
who's also probably... Go ahead and look up. Let's all learn together today how old Bono is. And then, Dylan, you can tell us what you learned this week, not including how old Bono is.
Those
is
the
Bono
glasses.
65?
It's the glasses.
63!
I would have also guessed Bono was older.
Oh, I guess 65, so I guess that was around the right track. But we usually end up talking about sort of dealing with mortality in the home stretch. That's usually where that comes out. But today it's starting to sneak up here, actually. Dylan, what'd you learn?
So I learned that no matter how big your accomplishments might be or what you might accomplish or do, that you still have to treat marriage as a team thing. The winner of the Open Championship, his first major, Brian Harmon, said that he was going to, quote, go home and mow the grass on his new mower to celebrate, in which he also said that he has not yet told his wife how much he spent on this new mower. So you can win a Open Championship and still need to get an okay on a new mower.
I hope that now he feels like he has brought in the money to cover the mower.
I think maybe.
But I mean, that's a conversation for the two of them.
He's going to have to redo the Excel spreadsheet.
He won $3 million.
Changes.
He won $3 million for the Open Championship.
But he bought the mower before, it sounds like, right?
Yes.
I mean, he celebrated.
So he had to win. He's like, shoot, I'm in the hole. I got to win.
Whoa, hold on. I like that a lot.
It's like Mahomes getting the Airbnb.
Which, I don't know, did we talk about that on this show? I can't remember if we talked about that. Him 3 months in advance. Like, yeah, we'll take the Airbnb in Phoenix. I mean, we're going to be there. We'll figure it out. I think that's a really good idea, the motivation being found in the lawnmower purchase. I'll give you my funniest from the weekend, which was the Barbie movie. I knew that as the reviews and the getting a better feel for what the movie was going to be, I knew it was going to be enjoyable. I was not prepared for the number of times that I laughed at a level of jokes that I don't feel like usually make it into your average blockbuster. Like there is some good buttons pressed in the Barbie movie. I enjoyed it very much. I enjoyed Oppenheimer very much, which we saw over at the B&B. I also saw Barbie at a B&B theaters, but it was up at the one by River Market. I love that theater. Fantastic time at the theater. Enjoyed Oppenheimer a ton, and still Asteroid City is my favorite movie I've seen in theaters this year. What a time! What a time for the movies.
Yeah.
That's maybe a pseudo best. Also, cinema is back. People were in theaters dressed up in
suits,
all pink for the Barbies.
Ties and
some formal wear if you were feeling like some period appropriate attire for Oppenheimer. I didn't go that far, but watching people dress up and go to Barbie and that just sort of be this cultural moment of Oppenheimer, Barbie coming out on the same day. Again, Asteroid City still being my favorite personally. Just really nice. I've always been a big movie theater guy. Makes me very happy. But Barbie, genuinely funny. So my funniest. Stu?
Turk Wharton sending Keandre Coburn a Quizlet to help him study the playbook. One, awesome for Turk Wharton, who's on the physically unable to perform list right now, the PUP list, if you will. But this is cool. First, let's do the cool part. This is a guy whose roster spot is not 100% safe. I think it mostly is Turk Wharton, but some playing time it might get stolen, especially in the future, too, by rookie Keandre Coburn, right?
Yeah.
he's still helping out whilst injured, giving him the playbook, helping him study with a Quizlet. Now, if you went to college in between the years of, 2006 to now, you know what Quizlet is. It's a great way to cheat/study for your college exams. He's acting as a fraternity test bank right now. He's like, hey, this is going to help you out with Joe Cullen and Andy Reid and everything, and Steve Spagnuolo. Here's a Quizlet to help you study. I love that from Turk Wharton.
Do you think there's like a Spags Rate My Professor page or anything?
Ooh.
Because I feel like there's got to be an internal Rate My Coach.
Love the coaching, can't understand him.
Great man, great coach, has never once in his life known exactly what time it is. All of his weaknesses are available from 11:55 a.m. to 12:05 p.m.
Always makes crab cakes and heats them up in the microwave.
Wife makes great meatballs. That's just another true thing that he's talked about. Dylan, what's your funniest from the weekend?
So my funniest would be that the Madden ratings and Madden people all they got to display their new game, essentially, with all the new players, ratings, pictures, including Creed Humphrey, who people seem to not really recognize or show the respect that he deserves. Still, in year 3, he had a picture that was very clearly not his player on his bio. So resembled more of a Sean Barber than a Creed Humphrey.
I didn't want to jump in
that was
until
my funniest thing.
I didn't want to jump in until you had figured out a way to describe the differences, which I would say for Creed Humphrey, it's not a different player's picture.
No,
it's the headshot of the animated character, like you would see 10 years into a franchise mode, with the procedurally created rookies and stuff. Several key differences. Frame, build, skin color, facial hair, head hair,
hat,
everything.
everything.
You could have shown me that and said guess the NFL player, and you could have given me. You said guess the Kansas City Chief, and I mean I would have gone through at least 50 or so guesses before I would have gotten to Creed Humphrey. So that was appropriately hysterical.
By the way, Matt Derrick texted me and says from his iTunes library, he's a fan of Colin Hay, baby.
Whoa!
I give good recommendations on this show.
I thought you were about to say, Matt Derrick has tweeted about Kadarius Toney. And I was like, all right, here we go.
No, Colin Hay.
Matt Derrick's just deep in the man at work catalog. I like that as a naming convention, though. That makes me very happy. Here's my best. I think usually Jason does his best. I can't remember how this works. My best is that Matt Norlander tweeted out a signed photo owned by Virginia men's basketball coach Tony Bennett. It is a signed photo of himself that he has signed, and a photo it's standing next to the late great singer Tony Bennett, who passed away on I think Thursday or Friday. But I saw this over the weekend. It is a picture of both Tony Bennett's standing side by side, having both signed it. That Tony Bennett, the basketball coach, I think had in his office or something like that, which I just thought was maybe the most unique one-of-one little bit of memorabilia anywhere with the two Tony Bennett. So I thought that was fantastic and a great tribute to the now recently passed away one of the great sort of crooners, lounge singers. I don't want to accidentally use one of kind of derogatory terms. I feel like a lounge singer might be kind of derogatory.
Let's keep saying more words and see how far off you can get.
American singing legend.
There you go,
Tony Bennett. So that was my best. What about you, Sterling?
Shot a salty little 84 at Sunflower Hills. Next thing I'm going to talk about is my fantasy football team. No one wants to hear about that, so I'm going to move on. Best thing is no one cares about this either, but I got a red tuxedo.
Hell yeah,
a
dude.
Chiefs red tuxedo because I saw it on sale and I thought, well, I would be stupid to not do this.
And you're planning a wedding now?
I'm planning a wedding. Oh, yeah. I guess the best is I'm planning a wedding now.
No,
I got engaged.
No, I was going to say
I thought red tuxedo was kind of cool, but
I'm
I'll
sorry.
go engagement, I guess.
No. You misunderstand me. You've got your wedding outfit
in the bag.
In the bag now, literally.
It might be the night before. What do you call that? The reception, the
rehearsal dinner.
Rehearsal dinner. That might be the old rehearsal dinner. Bust that bad boy out, kind of Dumb and Dumber-esque. Have you seen that movie? I mean, I know you're
It's
not a
been
movie
a really
guy.
long. I've seen some of it.
Dylan, you know what I'm talking about with the baby blue and the orange tuxes. This is just the red one, yeah. I'll get a top hat and a cane.
I knew that. I know what their suits look like. I'm excited for your red tux. I just think you should commit and wear it in your wedding.
Thank you.
Just live a little. Be a brave,
I never live.
icon.
I never live a little at all.
Yeah, I want you to let your hair down a little bit fashion-wise. Dylan, what was your best of the weekend?
Keep it short. It was the fact that Lionel Messi
Oh!
took all of, I think, I didn't count, but maybe 5 game minutes, maybe, to electrify the entire MLS world with a amazing free kick. Just perfect. He couldn't have thrown it into the net any better.
Did you see the
It was
view
just
from
beautiful.
behind the
Yes.
net? Oh, man. I can tell by the look in Sterling's face that he was equally elated by this.
I
Big
was
soccer guy, Sterling.
It was Friday night.
Yeah.
I know, because I was at softball.
Yeah.
Okay.
Big softball guy.
Yeah.
That's fine. I'm not trying to judge you for it. It's just, I wanted to mention it at some point in today's show, so I'm glad you did, Dylan. Absolutely electric.
Just, I immediately tried to figure out when I could go to see him at Sporting Park, potentially.
Is that why you're walking around with one kidney now?
Maybe.
Because the ticket
Maybe,
prices
yes.
have been
That
not
was a
ideal so
down
far.
payment. We'll see if
Yeah.
it clears.
Well, if Sterling wants to sell his red tux, maybe he could buy a ticket with that.
No.
But I didn't.
I've
think
yet
that
to
you
get
would.
it tailored, so I need to.
Easier to flip it now.
So I can look like a 2003 NBA draft.
You gotta get it tailored and really let out.
Let
you
it
wanna
out,
be
yeah.
Swimming in that
I want
thing.
to swim, baby.
Yeah, you want to take this in? No.
No.
I want to take it out, please.
No, I need you to make it look like I could fit 2 or 3 of me in these things. Not trench coat style, just width.
Look up TJ Ford shorts. That's what I'm going to look like.
We'll take a break, wrap up this episode of The Zone next.
Want to see more of The Zone? Watch the show live on the Sports Radio 810 WHB Facebook.
I will fight you. Come down and see me right now. I am at Buffalo Wild Wings.
On Sports Radio 810.
Because I will fight you.
Sterling, put your headphones on. We got like a minute left in the show, and I haven't asked you about Chris Jones yet. How should I feel about Chris Jones? Go.
I am scared. I am nervous. I am terrified. I was very fine until about 48 hours ago, maybe 24 hours ago, and now the house is collapsing. There's a fire around me, and I'm startled, okay? I don't know what to do. I don't know what to believe. Yeah, Quentin Williams was signed. I'm going, okay, maybe this is a guy who just doesn't want to go to training camp. I get it. It's hot in St. Joe. It's humid. We saw Rashee Rice yakking. He doesn't want to yak. He's going to wait. He's a veteran. He knows what to do. He'll be ready. And now I'm sitting here going, he wants $30 million potentially? That's a lot of dough. That's a lot more money than Brett Veach probably wants to give him. Brett Veach has a price. Brett Veach, they were about to have a deal with Tyreek Hill, and all of a sudden Tyreek goes, let me ask for like $1 million more, maybe 2 more. And he goes, kick rocks, pal. You're going to Miami. So yeah, Chris Jones, I'm scared now because Brett Veach has a price, and he ain't going to go over it.
Great work. Excellent delivery. 15 out of 10. Love that. Almost as much as I love listening to 1510, which is where you can hear Sterling every day over on the home stretch, 3 to 4, 1510 AM, 94.5 FM. And you also hear him tonight on the home stretch here tonight on Sports Radio 810 WHB. What's on the docket tonight?
We got Tucker Franklin tonight.
Oh, hell yeah,
7:15.
AES intern legend.
We got, he's supposed to be my producer, and then he decided to do big things like not hang with me.
What a loser.
8 o'clock, Jordan Foote.
Love it. Wow, what a coaching tree you got today.
I got a pretty big coaching tree.
Who else do you have? Because so far, this show rules.
Todd Lebo.
Oh, 3 hours of joy tonight.
Yeah.
But, of course, there's something else between now and then, which is the program with Seren Petro. That's coming up next year today on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Enjoy hearing from Stu tonight. Jason Anderson will be back in this big chair tomorrow, so I'll be back over there where Stu's sitting. Also, Intern Jeopardy today on the program. Intern Dylan, Intern Reed, both here, going to represent the zone. Hopefully represent well, fellas. If not, this was your last day. Bye, Mom.
Hey, KC, this is Jack Johnson from The Shift on ESPN Kansas City to tell you about the law firm of Gerritsen and Toff. They handle the most complex felony, federal, or state criminal defense cases. What sets them apart, though, from the average criminal defense firm is that they were prosecutors for 25 years.